In this video, I want to show you how you can monetize your Lovable mobile application using RevenueCat and native in-app purchases, which convert the best. So let's take a look at that. We're going to do the full setup for the App Store and the Google Play Store. So let's get right started with that. Right now, I'm already in a RevenueCat account. If you have not created one yet, make sure you create one. And I'm going to create a new project here for my application. My application is called Task Flow, and I'm going to create a project here. There you go. Now, inside of this project, we want to go to Apps and Providers, and we want to do New App Configuration for a live store. And I'm going to start with the App Store. And now I'm going to put my bundle ID inside of here. So I'm going to go to Despia, right inside of here. I'm going to go on Publish App, and now I have my iOS bundle ID right inside of here. If you do not know what Despia is, Despia allows you to take your Lovable web application and convert it into a native mobile application. So let's copy that here. And now I'm going to go back to RevenueCat. I'm going to paste the app bundle ID right inside of here. And that's now the setup. So now I need to have the in-app purchase key. Now, where do I find that? We need to go to the App Store Connect, and in the App Store Connect, we have this in-app purchase key here under Users and Access, Integrations, Keys, and then in-app purchase. And now we're going to create a new in-app purchase key. I'm going to call this Task Flow RevenueCat. There you go. Let's create. And now we have this key created here for Task Flow RevenueCat. So first of all, I'm going to download this in-app purchase key. There you go. And now I can go back to RevenueCat, and I'm going to upload this key from the App Store Connect inside of here. Now it asks me for my issuer ID. To set that up correctly, I'm going to go back to the App Store Connect. I'm going to copy my issuer ID, that's this one here, and I'm going to go back to RevenueCat and paste that inside of here. Now we can save the changes, and now this is the first part that's connected. Now there is another step that we need to do. We need to also make sure that we have the App Store Connect API set up. So RevenueCat needs to be a manager on our App Store account. So we go back to the App Store Connect. This time we go to App Store Connect API here, and I'm going to create a new API key called RevenueCat. This will be for the entire application account, so this will work for all your applications. I will make this be App Manager, very important. Let's generate a key. Now, same thing, we download the key. Let's download. And now we're going to go back to RevenueCat, and we are going to upload this key right inside of here, and then we need the issuer ID. So to get the issuer ID, we are now going to go back to the App Store Connect. We will copy our issuer ID from here again, and we're going to go back to RevenueCat, paste the issuer ID inside of here. Now to get our vendor number, we're just going to click on this link, and now this will bring us to the financial report page where in the top left corner, we can get our vendor ID. Now we're going to paste our vendor ID inside of here. We're going to save the changes, and now the integration is complete. So now RevenueCat has full access to the App Store Connect. So now we can go into RevenueCat under Product Catalog and import products and create entitlements. So let's take a look at that. Now, in this example, we want to build a custom paywall. We don't want to use RevenueCat's pre-built paywalls, even though we're also going to make videos on how you can use them using RevenueCat and Lovable and Despia. But in this video, we're going to build a custom one. So you can, make it exactly how you want it to be and add some custom logic in Lovable, which is way more customizable than RevenueCat's editor is currently. But you would now go to products, and I would highly suggest you to import the products. Because if you're going to create them in RevenueCat, it's not going to be the best experience from my point of view. So let's go to the App Store Connect and create a basic subscription and a basic in-app purchase. So I'm going to now go to my apps here, and I'm going to open my application, which I have right inside of here, task flow, AI productivity. And now under the distribution tab here, we will find the section monetization on the App Store Connect. There you go. And now I'm going to go to subscriptions. And let's start with a subscription. Now I will create a subscription group here. Okay, and now I'm going to go on create. And now the subscription group will bundle multiple subscriptions. So let's say you have a weekly plan and an annual plan. You don't want the user to subscribe to both plans. So you put them in a group so they can only subscribe to one of either. And it manages just the proration and all the pricing adjustments automatically. So now we have this reference name here, and this will be like a unique app name. Now it should be 100% unique. So let's take a look at that. In this example, I'm going to do task flow underscore. I'm going to do weekly because that's the new trend. Let's go on create task flow weekly. Now, no, my bad. Ooh, that's bad. No, I need to kill that group. No, don't follow this. This is bad. This is wrong. No, you need to. I understand I want to create an additional subscription group. Your subscription group needs to be something very generic. So you can't make a task flow weekly. Don't do this. I apologize. This needs to be like base plan. So the reference name could be something like base. This is your base subscription group. And then in this base subscription group, you will put your subscriptions in here. So look at that. I made the error for you so you don't have to do it. But we need to fix it. So to this one that's task flow weekly, which is not what we want to do. You see, I did this on purpose so you can learn from it. We need to delete the space group that has a specific name, right? This specific one, because this will be a folder for all your subscriptions on the app. So we have this base group here, and now we're going to create a subscription in the base group. So now we have a reference name here, and this reference name will be weekly. The product ID will be now task flow underscore weekly. Task flow underscore weekly. We're going to create this now. And now we have a weekly subscription created. Now we need to still choose a subscription duration. So I'm going to select 1 week inside of here. Now, if you want to have family sharing, that's something that you need to figure out for yourself, but they could then also access that in-app purchase, with their family accounts that are linked to their iCloud. Now we need to set up availability. I'm just going to make it available in all countries. I'm going to set a subscription price. Oh, and Apple is loading, of $4.99 a week. Let's set that. And let's go on next. Confirm. And now this is all nicely set up here. Fantastic. Beautiful. Now we could add an image here if we want, but I'm not going to do that. That's optional. And then just for your information, when you're going to send this to app review and your application goes into the final review, you need to upload a screenshot in how this in-app purchase is being used in the app. This like a screenshot of what it unlocks, what features, and then a little description explaining what users get when they purchase this subscription, this in-app purchase, etc. Fantastic. Now we have this all set up, so we can save this. And there you go. Now this is the first subscription in our base plan. And for this video, we're just going to set up one subscription, and that's going to be it. Perfect. And now we're going to go back to distribution, and now we're going to set up an in-app purchase. So to create an in-app purchase, we're going to go to monetization, and we're going to go to in-app purchases. Now they do not need groups, but there's something that you need to consider with them. Let's go on create here. And now we have consumable and non-consumable. Consumable is like if you're selling them diamonds or something like this, where they need to repeatedly buy the in-app purchase all the time if they run out of it. Non-consumable is a one-time purchase. If they purchase this, they cannot purchase it ever again. So most of the times when you're doing credits, tokens, diamonds, in-app currency, you want to do consumable. The reference name could be coins. Like, let's do 25 coins, and the product ID will be task flow underscore 25 coins. There you go. Let's create this. And now we have a 25 coins package. Now we need to set up availability. I'm going to make it available in all countries. We're going to add pricing. Let's do this like $4.99 or like $3.99 for 25 coins. Let's go on next and let's confirm. There you go. And now this is it. And then same thing with the review information, upload a screenshot. How does it look when they unlock the coins and what can they do with the coins, and explain why there is a need to have this be an in-app purchase. Let's save that, but you can still test without this being fully filled out. So now we're going to go back to in-app purchases, and now we see that this is ready. Now it's still a draft because it's not approved by app review yet, but that's fine. Now in RevenueCat for iOS, we can go on new and we can import products. And now, as you can see, we got the weekly subscription and the 25 coins. And now we can import those, and there you go. Now we have those. Now RevenueCat also lets us allow to manage virtual currencies, which may be interesting for the coins, but it's in beta, so, be careful using it, but it should be properly working. Now the entitlements are very interesting. Entitlements are levels of access like pro access, basic access that the users are entitled to. So for the subscription, I want to create a pro entitlement. So I'm going to create a new entitlement, but you don't need to do them. You can also manage this on your backend. But let's take a look at this. Now inside of here, I'm going to do identifier and I'm going to do pro_access. The description will be access to all premium features. There you go. Let's add that. And now we have this entitlement. Now we need to go back to products and link at least one of our subscription products to this entitlement. Perfect. So now this has an entitlement, and now we can check if the user is entitled to access those parts of our application with the API. And then the coins, we could technically use virtual currencies for that. So we could create a new currency. The currency code could be coin. The icon could be, what's the closest to a coin? I don't know. Let's do a little like this. And the name could be coin. The description, coins to spend in the app. Now, this is a new feature, so I've never done this before, but let's add an associated product. The product will be 25 coins, and then units added on purchase renewal. This will be 25. Units added on trial start. There's no trial for this because this is a one-time purchase. And then auto expire at the end of a billing cycle. No, because this is a one-time purchase. Now, the subscription will maybe also give them coins. Maybe they get, access to premium features, but also coins in addition to that. Could happen if you're doing an AI app. So you can add an associated purchase here. So we now have the weekly product. And then let's say the weekly product gives you 200 coins, or let's do 50 coins, gives you the weekly ones on purchase and renewal. So every week you get 50 new coins. And then when they do a free trial on this one, we'll give them 25 coins because we want them to start the trial and forget about it. That is how you make money with weekly subscriptions. Sorry to say that to you. And then auto expire at the end of the billing cycle. That would mean, do we need it to auto expire at the end of the billing cycle? This is new. I would assume auto expire at the end of the billing cycle would mean that when the subscription ends, that we're going to expire it. So just for precaution, I'm just going to enable that. But you need to play with that. Again, it's in beta, so I didn't find too much of a documentation about that yet on Google, but it may be hidden because it's new. So we're just going to create this, and then we're just going to go with, we're just going to treat this as an early feature. Okay. Now, but you could also manage them on your backend. Like if the product ID, is task flow 25 coins, add 25 coins to the user. You could also do something like this. Virtual currencies are in beta, and I don't even think that we should use them. because we can also manage this on our backend. But, it's something that you can set up. So now under entitlements, we have the entitlement and we have the products here for iOS. And that's pretty much the whole setup that we need to do for Apple. Now, the last thing, obviously, is going to the API keys and then taking this public SDK API key, copying it from here, going into Despia, looking for the RevenueCat integration, and then to iOS public SDK key, and paste it inside of here. And then for the global project ID, we also can set that up right now. So we go to project settings, and then we have the project ID. We're going to copy the project ID. We're going to go back to Despia and paste this inside of here. There you go. So now that's the iOS in-app purchase setup. So now we're going to do the Android one. So let's get right into the Android setup. So what we need to do to set up the Android part correctly is in our project in RevenueCat, we need to go to Apps and Providers, and we're going to add a new application config. Now we go on Google Play Store, and now we're going to get our Google Play package, so our Google Bundle ID. For that, we go back into Despia, we switch to the Google Android tab, and we're going to copy the Google Bundle ID. Then we go back to RevenueCat, we're going to paste this inside of here, and now we need to create a Google service account. So let's take a look at that. Now also RevenueCat has some documentation on the side because there are some specific permissions that we need to copy for that. So if we go in here, where are the permissions? Create the service account, and it needs to have this permission: pub sub editor, monitoring viewer. There you go. So now we're going to go to the Google Cloud Console here. You may already have a Google Cloud Console project from your login with Google, so you can take that project as well. We're going to go to IAM in admin. If you don't have this overview here, you can take a look at the navigation menu, go to IAM in admin, and then go to service accounts. Now, we're going to create a new service account. We're going to call this RevenueCat. We're going to create and continue. And now we're going to go inside of here and we are going to add the permissions. So we can copy them, pub sub editor. We're going to go back to the service account, paste this inside of here, and select this permission. Now we're going to add another permission. This will be monitoring viewer. We're going to copy that one, and we're going to go back to Google Cloud Console, and we're going to paste this one inside of here. And now we have all the correct permissions. We're going to go on continue, and now we're going to go on done. So now we have the service account created. Now there are a few steps and a few permissions that we need to still give RevenueCat access to. So what we need to do is we need to scroll up a little bit because there is a permission that we need to grant. We need to go here on this link under step 3 in the course step 1, and it says Google Play Android Developer API page. Click on link, and we need to make sure that this is enabled on the correct project here. In my example, flow state. This is probably already enabled if you're using Despia, but there's another one that we need to enable. That's the reporting API page. So you click on this link, and now we're going to enable this one as well. This will take a little bit. And now this one is also enabled. There you go. Now, there's some other permissions that we need to enable, which are, as far as I can see, not outlined and not linked on this page here. So we can't find this, but they will appear in RevenueCat's error messages. So it's sometimes a little bit of a funky setup. So what we now need to do is we now need to go to the service account credential JSON here to the file upload. And we're going to go to our RevenueCat service account, this one here. We're going to go on Actions, Manage Keys, and now we're going to create a new API key. So add key, create new key, JSON, create, and there you go. Now you have this key. So we go back to RevenueCat and upload the key inside of here. There you go. And now we can save the changes. And that's it. Now this is all set up here. Now it will give you an error message. Why? Because it can take up to, hold tight, 24 hours and even more to get this verified. But sometimes it goes faster. So now we have a new setting appear here, Google Developer Notifications. We're going to just choose a topic ID. Now there's no one available yet. We should be able to create one. So let's just refresh the page in RevenueCat, and then it should prompt us to create one. So if I click in here, there are no options yet. Why is that? Because the integration with Google is not fully set up yet, even though all the IDs are correct. So what we need to do is we need to reload the page in RevenueCat, and we will now get this error message. Click on this link, and now this error message will bring you to the PubSub API, and we need to enable that. They sadly don't have this linked in their documentation, so we need to wait to get an error to set it up correctly. But there you go. Now we have it enabled, and it's all that matters. Now if we reload the page here, we will see that the error message disappeared. And we should be able now, after we set this up, as you can see, to select the option here under the Google Developer Notifications. So we're now going to select this one, and now we're going to go on Connect with Google. Now, this will give us more errors. So we're going to copy this one in here because we need to finalize the documentation at the integration. So let's open this. And now what we need to do is we need to, if we take a look at their documentation, it's a little bit of a pain to set it up in Google, but we need to now link this also with the Play Store. So if we go down a little bit here, we should be able to have this linked with the Play Store. Oh, they don't have that set up in the Play Store, but we'll take a look at that. So what we need to do essentially is we now need to go back here to the Google Cloud Console, go one step back, and we now get this RevenueCat email. We're going to copy the email. We're going to go to the Google Play Console, users and permissions. We're going to invite new users. We're going to select, paste this user inside of here, and then we go to account permissions, and then we need to enable some specific permissions. If I'm not mistaking this, we need to enable view, data, orders, cancellation, survey responses, manage orders and subscriptions, and then I think there was some other stuff, manage store presence. Now, I may be wrong about that, but this is what it would essentially need. Now, I can't find their documentation because they sadly don't tell you which ones you need to do directly, but let's double check that. Let's just look at their documentation here on the site again. And we have to set up, we have the reporting API. And let's see, manage. They have it somewhere, but their documentation is a little bit confusing because it links out to multiple branches. Grant final access users permission. Okay, view app information and bulk download reports. So there you go. We have the permission here under point 3. There you go. So let's go back and let's make sure that we have this set up correctly. So let's do Command F. Okay, so we have under app access, view app information in bulk, and download bulk reports, read only. So that's the first one that we need. Now, the second one that we need, let's go back to RevenueCat. Let's copy this one and let's search for that. Let's go back to this here and let's search for this one. I already have that on. View financial data, orders, cancellation survey, responses. Perfect. Now we're going to go back to RevenueCat, manage orders and subscriptions. Let's look for that. It's out of here. And I already have manage orders and subscriptions enabled. So now we can invite this user and we can invite. And now we have invited RevenueCat to access this kind of data on our Google developer account in the Google Play Console. So now we can retry the connection. It should still fail, but now if we connect with Google, this one should go through. But again, it can take a little bit to properly have it set up. So let's double check, because Google setup is always a little bit complicated. Let's go and connect with Google again, wait till we get the error message, and let's look at the documentation. You'll not have permission to create pub sub topic. Okay, again, I need to highlight with Google, credentials can take up to 35 hours after being created to be valid. So it can take over a day for Google to create those credentials and set it up. But one thing that it tells us when we're trying to set this up is that we need to have pub sub permission. So it does not have permission to create pub sub referred to. Okay, so let's look for pub sub. Okay, while sub role should be enough in most cases. So we do have the pub sub role added inside of here, but their video says pub sub admin. But we have pub sub, while the pub sub editor role should be enough, in most cases, some developers have reported permission errors when creating pub subs with that role. If you run into issues, try using pub sub admin. So we might as well also add the pub sub admin role into the Google Cloud Console and see if that works. So their documentation says one thing, and then there is the call out that we need to adjust that. So let's go to this account here, and let's go to manage permissions. Let's go to manage access. And now we're just also going to add pub sub admin inside of here. We're going to save this, and we're going to update the permission. And now let's hope that this fixes it, right? That may be the problem. Let's try connect to Google. It's taking a little bit. That may be a good sign. So this was successful. So don't follow their documentation with pub sub editor. Make sure you grant RevenueCat the permission of pub sub admin. There you go. So now we have this integration set up correctly. So now we have some other settings here, like with the report bucket, the public API key. And the report bucket is only if you're trying to import historical data, but you can add that, you can follow the documentation for that. That is actually easily explained, but I'm starting a new app, so I don't need that. So now we have the Google provider successfully created here on our storefront with RevenueCat. So now we can go to API keys. We will go to SDK API keys. We will copy this. We will go back to Despia. And now under Android public SDK key, we're going to paste this inside of here. And then we already have the project ID that's global for both, for the entire project in RevenueCat. So now we have the RevenueCat integration successfully added into our application. So now what we need to do is we need to rebuild the application for Apple iOS and rebuild the application for Google Android after we have also added the Google packages and the Google in-app purchases and subscriptions. So let's first add them as well, and then we're going to rebuild for both of them. So inside of the Google Play Console, if we go back to Home, and if we're going to select our application here, where did it go? Test flow. Interesting. I think my application is gone. Let me look for that. Found it. Okay, so it's task flow. Let's view the application. And now we go on Monetize with Play here. And then you see you have this product section here. You're going to extend that. And you're going to go on subscriptions, create subscription. Now we need to create this group ID, this, where your multiple plans are in. So I'm going to call this base, and then the name will be base. Let's create this. And now we're going to add a base plan. Again, this is going to be weekly. And let's just do weekly lowercase. Let's make it auto-renewing. The monthly period will be weekly. And then I'm going to set prices for the availability. Let's select all regions. Let's set the price of $4.99. Let's update. Let's save. And now we can click on activate. And now our in-app subscription is activated here. There you go. Now to create an in-app purchase, we're going to go on in-app purchases here. We're going to create a product. The product ID will be 25 underscore coins. Let's see if we can do underscores, 25 coins. Name will be 25 coins. And let's do get points to unlock cool stuff. There you go. Price, we're going to set the price. The price will be, what did we do? Like $3.99 US. Let's apply the prices. Okay. Allow users to purchase more than one of this part in a single transaction. No, I think like just doing one at a time is fine. Let's save this. And now we have this product saved. Now we're just going to activate our in-app purchase. And there you go. Now we have both of them activated. Now inside of RevenueCat, we're going to go to our product catalog. We're going to go to products. And now we are going to import products under Android. I'm going to select my base weekly and my 25 coins. And then the coins need to be consumable so they can purchase multiple ones of them. Now we're going to import them. And now we have them imported. And they have different names, so that's something to consider. In RevenueCat, iOS and Android is separated, but you still have one platform to manage all the webhooks. So when we want to go with entitlements, we also need to make sure that the base weekly plan here also has the entitlement to grant the pro access in this example. And then when we're going to go to the virtual currencies here, when we go on the coin currency here, we will need to make sure and edit this and also make sure that, let's delete this here, that this also applies to the 25 coins for Android and the weekly subscription for Android as well. Let's save this. There you go. Fantastic. So now we have this all set up. Now we can create offerings. They're mainly for paywalls, which we're going to make a separate video about, where you can create a new offering and you can add, your paywall to that. You can add a web purchase link. You can add some metadata. You can add your packages here, your tiers, but we're not going to do this in this video. I think that's a separate video. But yeah, we got the sandbox data inside of here. And now this whole project is essentially set up with iOS and Android. So now we can implement the front end to kind of track our products and, initialize the web, the native checkout in our web code base to access native functionalities. Now, in order to get that all going though, what we need to do is we need to go back to Despia. And now I'm going to make a cut, but I'm going to rebuild the iOS application and the Android application. So I'm going to start the process right now, and I'll be back in a second for you. So now, while this is all, updating and we're publishing the applications, there's something that we can do in the meantime, and that is actually creating the prompt. So we have a weekly subscription and a coin package. So let's go into our nodes here and let's create the prompt. Let's call this implement RevenueCat IAPs and subscriptions via the Despia SDK command. Here are my commands. Okay, let's start with the first one. Weekly. And I'm going to make sure that this is, so let's do here are my plans. Let's just go subscriptions actually. And I want to group this subscription, the first one, weekly. And now I'm going to add in here App Store ID, right? And the App Store ID for the weekly one is we're going to go to RevenueCat and we're going to copy the App Store ID for the weekly one. We're going to paste this inside of here, and then I'm going to do Play Google Play ID. And then I'm going to copy the Google Play ID for the same plan. I'm going to paste that inside of here. There you go. And then I'm going to do one-time purchases, one-time purchases, okay? And I'm going to do with the first one. Let's call this 25 coins. And I'm now going to say is consumable. That's important, so it doesn't block people from paying again. We would like them to pay again. 25 coins, there you go. And now we're going to go and copy this for the Apple ID. So I'm going to do app store ID, and then I'm going to do Google Play ID, and I'm going to go back to RevenueCat, and I'm going to copy the 25 coins for Google because they have separate IDs across the platforms. Now I'm going to say make a modern, nice drawer paywall using val the React drawer component. This is a secret trick. Now, the only issue with val is it's not actively maintained, but it's super nice. So the only issue is it doesn't implement CSS safe areas for the page sheet UI, but I think we're going to make probably some cool hack for that to, have a better solution. But for now, it's a really nice solution. It looks like Apple. So I'm just going to reference their website, and I hope at some point they're going to add safe area support. But let's put the link in here because I think it's a beautiful one. I would love my paywall to look like that. The React drawer component. There you go. Okay, wonderful. And now I'm going to, show it the prompt for Despia to set it up. You need to set up the RevenueCat integration 1-to-1 via the Despia native instructions as this is the runtime that I use. Okay, and now we're going to go to our RevenueCat documentation from Despia, and we're going to copy this here. And I'm going to copy the entire prompt. And now I am going to go into my notepad and I'm going to paste this prompt inside of here. There you go. And now I got the entire example here. Well, let's remove the copy though. There you go. So now I have this whole prompt here that is ready. So now we're going to just, we're prepared. We're going to go back to Lovable. But now we're just going to wait till the applications are built so we can test them. Great news, the update is now complete. So we can now go to open here on our iOS device for starters, and we can now see the application is updated. Now we need to still implement safe area and all that kind of stuff, but now we can start the setup with the prompt here. So I'm going to also add to my prompt inside of here, very important, inside of here, use the logged in user ID as the external ID. There you go. And in the RC webhooks, get the appropriate user ID from there to grant permissions via the webhook. For the plan, implement backend logic that uses the RC entitlements. Both iOS and Android use for the weekly plan the entitlement. Now I'm going to put the entitlement in here to my entitlements. I'm going to copy the entitlement proaccess. And we also grant users virtual currency currency via the new RevenueCat beta feature for virtual currencies. Here is my currency name or currency ID. Okay, let's go to RevenueCat to the virtual currencies. And I think it's the currency code, right? The code is coin. So I'm just going to copy this inside of here, or let's see. No, delete. So the name is coin and the code. So let's do, and here's my currency code. Coin. There you go. Please use their docs and use this to monitor / spend their coins. Create the full setup. And now I'm going to go to RevenueCat's documentation because I assume they must have some documentation for the virtual currencies. I can't find something in here, so let's go back to virtual currencies. And we have documentation for that popping up here on this page. So I need to open this T as it seems. And now I have this. So we can just copy this from ChatGPT. Okay, that should be it. Let's close that. And now I'm going to go into my, and I'm going to add that inside. I apologize, Xcode was open in the background, then, my camera always starts glitching because it's quite heavy, but let's go back to where we were here. We had this link here to look at that as context, and then I'm also going to add, here are the entitlement docs from RevenueCat. So use that for the subscription handling via the backend. There you go. And now we're going to go back to RevenueCat and we're going to go to entitlements. And we are going to, how can I get to the point, create an offering status page? I can't really copy those. I need to open them in an AI. They don't give me the link. And this doesn't open anything. Okay. Let's just do entitlements. Let's just Google that. RevenueCat. I'd like to get the link from there. There you go. Trusted products, entitlements. Let's go to entitlements, and there you go. And they had it let's just take this page here. Okay. And I'm just going to put this in my prompt. Okay, and now I have the link so I can open that. So this is my master prompt. Let's, can I copy that? Download, export, share, copy link, and share. No, I don't want to. Okay, let me just then manually copy everything here. Okay, let's copy this master prompt that we created throughout our whole entire setup. And now this should be it. We got it all set up here in RevenueCat. So I'm now going to go to Lovable. And I'm going to go and paste this inside of here. And I'm going to go into chat mode so it reasons and comes up with a plan to implement. So now we're going to wait till Lovable does that all for us. So let's scroll down here because it's quite a little bit. and it's now thinking, it's creating everything. It will now say, I'll help you implement RevenueCat in-app purchases and subscriptions via the Despia SDK. Then we first examined the current project structure and then create a comprehensive implementation plan. So it looked at the Despia README file because we used the master prompt. It searched for Despia in the code base. Now let me search for the RevenueCat documentation. So as you can see, now it goes to RevenueCat, looks at all the stuff, also looks at the Despia integration with RevenueCat, our native one. Let me fetch the RevenueCat documentation directly. Now it goes to RevenueCat. Now let me check if there's any specific Despia documentation for RevenueCat. Perfect, I found the Despia RevenueCat page. Let me fetch it, looks at the page. Let me try to access the Despia documentation directly. Looks for it also in the README file. Let me try to access documentation, the RevenueCat page directly. Perfect, now I have all the information I need. Okay, now RevenueCat IAP and subscriptions implementation plan, implementing a complete RevenueCat based monetization system with subscriptions and consumable coins using Despia native SDK. The system includes weekly subscriptions with proaccess entitlement, 25 coins, consumable purchase, virtual currency management, modern drawer, and paywall using Val, backend web handling for entitlement. So it creates now the architecture, the plan, so weekly subscription, App Store ID, base task flow weekly, Google Play ID, base weekly, entitlement proaccess, and then here, App Store ID, task flow, 25 coins, Google Play ID, 25 coins, virtual currency, coin, yes, user subscriptions, perfect. We got row level security, user coins. It creates the offering. We don't have an offering actually, so we could also create an offering here to set that up, so we can display the offering dynamically. That's also something that we can do. So we don't need to hard code that when they build the paywall. So let's actually try that. Let's do an offering here. Let's create a new offering. I'm just going to give us an identifier of Lovable app, display name, core packages. I'm bad at names. Core packages. And now I'm going to add a package. Let's select, this is going to be weekly. And then the description will be weekly access plus 50 coins a week, plus 50 coins a week. And then the product will be here, the weekly and the base weekly for Android. I'm going to add another package here. This is going to be the identifier custom. The custom identifier will be, it's kind of like one time. So let's use standard identifier. Lifetime, no, it's one time. Get 25 coins. And then we take the 25 coins here to create this offering. And I want the weekly plan to be pushed because we want to have the monthly recurring revenue. Then under metadata, I can add some metadata, but we don't need that. Web purchase link, paywall, we don't have a paywall. Web purchase link, we're not doing web purchases in this example. That's something though that you could set up if you want to do that. Let's save this. And now we have this set up here. So the identifier, let's just go and let's explain a little bit more to Lovable to come up with a better plan. The RevenueCat offering I want to use is Lovable app with the API ID of, and now we go back to RevenueCat, and you see here the API RevenueCat ID. I'm going to copy that one, and I'm going to paste this inside of here. Also, the weekly subscription for iOS and Android does also include the coin virtual currency plus the
mentioned entitlement
Pro access, because they're getting pro access to pro features plus also their weekly coins, right? So we need to now tell Lovable, add that to the plan and consider those changes. Okay, and now I'm going to send that in the chat mode to Lovable. And now we have this nicely set up here. So we don't have a paywall and we don't have rules for that yet. But there's some cool stuff that you can do with the paywall. But we're just probably using this to just fetch the data so that we can then dynamically show that kind of data. But there you go. So now let's take a look. I'll update the plan to incorporate your specific RevenueCat offering details. Let me first check the current state of the project to ensure we have all the context we need. So it looked at all the stuff in here. Perfect. Let's see. It now creates the plan. We got the offering. We're going to create the database function, the coin transactions. We're going to store that also in our database with Lovable Cloud or Supabase. It comes up with the whole plan. There you go. The webhooks, we do cancellation, expiration, billing, issue. That looks nice. We're going to import all the stuff. That looks good. And then we're going to set the weekly coins. Product ID includes weekly, configure based on your RevenueCat setup. Now, I assume what it tries to do here, from what I'm looking at, it tries to manually grant the coins. And we need to fix that because I want to use the RevenueCat coin system with their virtual currency. So I want to go to the RevenueCat system again. And let's go on product catalog and to virtual currencies. Because the currencies are very new, what I want to do is I want to just copy this documentation here. So we can give this as context to Lovable. Use RC's native currency management system. And now I'm going to paste that in here and provide this to Lovable as context. And I'm going to go to chat mode. And then we're going to have this create a new plan, a new strategy for this implementation. And then we're going to implement that, and then this should be all fine. So take some time to make sure to have Lovable create a good prompt, create a good plan, go through the plan, try your best to understand it, maybe copy the plan, put it into ChatGPT, Claude, have a double check it. You want to make sure that when you start integrating RevenueCat, especially when it comes to the backend and the front end stuff, that you do it correctly, you double check the information, because when you set it up and you got to roll back, it's a pain. So make sure that you go through the plan and it makes sense to you. So now it creates a database schema. It looks, creates database. The coin, the code is coin, the name is coins. Yes. Description, associate product with coin, amount 50 coins or your preferred amount. Granted, purchase 25 coins. Yes. Configure offering, Lovable, app ID, edge functions, paywall offerings, no changes. You keep that simplified. We're going to have the implementation to manage the currencies. That makes sense. Let's take a look at that. The entitlement, we're doing a GET request for that to check the entitlements. If the user has access, that makes sense as well. Front-end implementation, no changes. Paywall component, yes. Okay. Now I want to understand how is it seeing if the user has access. So we should check this based on the user ID, but let's wait till Lovable streams because it's quite painful scrolling down while it streams because you scroll up and it goes down and so on and so forth. Best practice is critical. Backend validation for current spending. Never allow arbitrary current spending. Always validate the action. That's a good point. So it now says, hey, like 5 coins is for this action, 5 coins is for this action, and you tell the backend what action is performed rather than how many coins are being spent. So people can spend like 1 million coins or only set it to be 1 on the front end. Use rate limiting, audit, aggregation strategy. Yeah, that looks good. So we'll just wait till was done with that, and my computer is glitching out. I know it's something with Lovable, I guess. Maybe they got memory leaks, but I'll be back when it's streamed. Ah, damn it. So now, oh my god, it's so buggy. I apologize for that. So now the plan was successful. So let's have it implement the plan. So we're just going to click on implement the plan. And now we're just going to wait till it implements the plan. And while it's implementing the plan, it seems like my computer can cool down. So now Lovable asks us for our RevenueCat API key. So I'm going to go to RevenueCat. I'm going to go to API keys. And I'm going to now add a new secret API key. I'm going to call that Lovable Cloud or Supabase in your example. Now, depends. I'm going to have to ask it which API version are we using, which API version are we using, 1 or 2. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to use the correct one. So because we can select for them, and some of the times 1 does set things differently than 2, and it's not like 1 is worse than 2 or 2 is better than 1. It just depends on what we're trying to do with it. So we'll see. Okay. This is correct because RevenueCat's virtual currency is only available on the 2, while traditional subscriber offering endpoints use 1. Okay. Then let's create 2 environment variables, 1 for v1 and 1 for v2. Let's send it to Lovable. So now in the meantime, we go and we do in here Lovable Cloud v1, right? And then we generate the v1 key, and then we're going to go and we're going to do Lovable Cloud v2, and then we're going to generate a v2 key, and I'm just going to give it overview configuration, read probably, and customer information permission, read only, project configuration should be read only. For the currencies offering configuration, package configuration, entitlement configuration, they should manage this purchases configuration. Okay, we should ask it, does v2 meet read or write access? Does v2 need read or write access? Let's take a look at that. Always ask questions before you put something in that you're unsure. I'm a fan. Let's get a good foundation going here as a plan, and then we're going to set it all up. So, needs write access since you'll be spending virtual currency. Okay, so we're going to give it write access. Keep this key safe. Read and write. It is. Read and write. Read and write. Of course, you can get more granular to make it more secure, but this is just for a video today. And you shouldn't expose your secrets, and make sure you add them as a secret. So if you don't get this funky box here, don't do it. Okay, got it. Let's start. Okay. Now I get my keys ready, and now I'm going to use them so we can spend money. And then the cool thing is RevenueCat manages automatically the
tokenization of
the whole application, because every AI app has such thing. Let's go to RevenueCat. We're going to now get the V1 Lovable Cloud V1 API key for RevenueCat. Got that in here. Submit. And now we're going to go back to RevenueCat. We take V2. We'll copy this. We go back to Lovable. And now we're going to drop the V2 key inside of here. So we got V2. We'll drop this one. We're going to submit. Always submit it in the box so it's secure. Very important. You don't want anybody else to have access to that. Don't have it put in a JSON file or something. Do not do that. That's dangerous. Now it's modifying the database and it's doing all the stuff to set up the backend. This can take up to 10 minutes. So we're going to make a cut and I'll show you how it looks once we're done. So Lovable just finished the entire setup. So let's test this. So as you can see, we're all done. And I'm going to ask Lovable now,
is there anything I need to set up now or some info that you need from me? That's always a great prompt to ask because, you know, you never know if it just did something and there's half of it missing. So it's always good to just ask it, hey, what do you need from me? If you need something, and then just have it tell you that. But while we're getting that information, let's update our project here. And it will now ask us for a couple of steps that it needs, like the coins and all that kind of stuff. So we'll look into that. But now this is all published here. So if we open the application, you will be able to see that we now have the store, and this will then allow us to buy coins. Pair loading offer. So it doesn't, let's see. Entitlements. There are no entitlements. Let's see. Let's look at the network tab here, and let's buy the coins. And we're getting error loading coins. So now I think there is some data that it needs from me. Create products in RevenueCat. We have that. Set up the webhook URL. So we need to set up the webhook. So let's go to RevenueCat. Excuse me. Now we're going to go to integrations. We go to webhooks. Now we're going to call this Lovable. Okay. I'm going to paste the webhook. And now I'm just going to do both production and sandbox, and I'm going to add the webhook. There you go. So now we got the webhook here. We can already send a test event here, and it'll come back as an internal server error because, we are sending, test data, which is not going to work in most cases. But now configure the virtual currency entitlement. Okay. Despia, add payment OAuth, always open in a browser. Got that. Configure Apple sign-in. Okay, perfect. Let's tell it. I have the virtual currencies set up in RevenueCat as well as the entitlements. Entitlements. Do we need the entitlement for the coins since they are managed by the currency? Tell it also the offerings are not loading and I get this error. We may just want to hardcode them at some point then. Let's just, though, open the application. Let's close that here. And let's go to the store. And we're just going to go on inspect elements. And we'll go to the store. And if we buy coins, you see error loading offers. So let's just go back here. And I'm just going to show the error that I'm getting to Lovable. Okay, and I'm going to go to chat, and now I'm going to have it take a look at that. Maybe there's something obvious that we overlooked, so then we're just going to wait to have that solve it. Let's see. So this will now take a little bit, so I'm going to make a little cut.
And I'll be back once it's done.
So as you can see, Lovable is now saying following. I can see the issue. Looking at the edge function logs, there are two main problems. RevenueCat API error, invalid platform. The paywall offering function is getting this error, invalid platform. This means that the RevenueCat version 1 API requires a platform-specific endpoint. Let me check the current implementation. I found the problem. The RevenueCat version 1 API requires a platform parameter in the URL, according to RevenueCat's API docs. The offering endpoint needs to specify the platform iOS, Android, or Strike. Okay, database constraints issue. The logs also show database absurd error. There is no unique or exclusion constraint matching on conflict specification. This means the user subscription table doesn't have an unique constraint on user ID, which is required for the onConflict clause in the absurd operation.
And then, to answer your question about entitlements, no, you do not need a separate entitlement for coins if you're using RevenueCat's virtual currency feature. Virtual currencies are managed independently by RevenueCat and accessed through the virtual currency field in the subscriber data, not through entitlements field. The current implementation correctly reads from subscriber data, subscriber, virtual currency, coins, balance. You would only need an entitlement if you want to gate certain features based on subscription status, like premium access. But for coin balance tracking, the virtual currency system is sufficient. Plan to fix the issue. There you go. Option 1. Let's go down here. Use default iOS preview. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. For the iOS, for the platform error, Despia has a feature to solve that. If the app runs in Despia on iOS, the user agent will include iPad or iPhone. And if it runs in Android, it will be, and we're just going to put this in here, it will be Android. It will include Android. Also, it will include Despia if it runs as a native app like Despia iPhone. Like Despia iPhone. That's how we set the user agent. So, if it does not include Despia, just fall back to web. There you go. And now we can have this offering automatically managed with this prompt here. There you go. And every time we wrote Despia, it's all lowercase. The user agent is always in your lowercase. That's how we set that. So let's send this now to Lovable. And I'm just going to put this in the chat. And now it's going to probably create a plan to implement this correctly so we can get the offerings and we can start making in-app purchase tests. And the nice thing with the offerings that I didn't know, it seems to adapt the UI that we're going to be able to load from it, that we can then custom show in our slide up element, in our drawer. From RevenueCat. So when we tell it iOS, it'll load the IDs appropriately for iOS. And if we tell it Android, it'll load the IDs appropriately from Android. So we do not have to deal with all the complexity of hard coding it in Lovable, losing contacts, and you can update the IDs, from RevenueCat, and it'll, next time the app loads, be updated. So that is quite cool. So let's take a look what Lovable is now saying. So it says perfect. That's a much clearer solution. let me check the current implementation to see exactly what needs to be updated. Great, now I can see the exact implementation. Here's the updated plan using Despia's user agent. Okay, updated plan. Fix RevenueCat platform detection using Despia user agent. Fix database constraints and then detect platform. If it includes Despia or iPad, platform is iOS. If it includes Android, platform is Android. If Despia is not in user agent, platform is web fallback. That is fantastic. So now we can implement the plan, and now this will set up our RevenueCat paywall correctly, and we're doing a custom paywall. We're loading the data from the offering, so we don't have to use RevenueCat paywalls. But I got good news for you. If you're looking towards using RevenueCat paywalls, we're going to add this in the month of October. So if you're watching this video after October or close to the end of October, there is a very high chance that we already support native RevenueCat paywalls that also support over-the-air updates, and they have this beautiful no-code visual editor to set up your paywalls, and they got some pre-designed high-converting paywalls as well. But we'll give you more information about that once we got it all done and set up. We're just going to make sure that we have all the latest dependencies and it runs beautifully in Despia. And Lovable. So now it's going to update the database, and it's still working on it. I would assume it would take a little bit, but let's see. Now it fixed the database constraints and implemented Despia platform detection. Beautiful. So let's publish this. I would assume we're not going to get the paywall now in the browser because we didn't have set up RevenueCat web payments. But the nice thing of doing this is we now also have a hybrid solution that our application could also work as a PWA. So let's close this here, and let's go on Inspect Elements, and we're going to go into the device mode, and I'm going to go to the store. And now I'm still getting the error, so let's see what's happening here. Let's try reloading it. It could be that didn't fully... oh, my bad. We need to update. Let's see if it was fully updated. Did I update it? Starting to question myself here a little bit. Let's see. Okay, now I know it will be updated. So let's see. So I'm going to be loading. Let's see. No, I'm still getting this error. So let's tell it. Tell Lovable. let's tell it. I still get this error on the web. Okay, now I'm going to just tell this Lovable in the chat mode so we can see if it comes up with a plan. And then I'm going to test this real quick on the mobile app. So let me share my screen with you so we can take a look at this together and see if it maybe works on the mobile device. If it works on the mobile device, that'll be good news. So let's see. Is my screen mirroring working? Ooh, there you go. Now it's coming through. So we'll just take a quick look at that together. So let's open the application. And now we got to implement save area. This is annoying. Let's go to the store. Okay, let's buy coins. No, it also doesn't work on the mobile version. So we need to make sure that, Lovable updates that correctly so it loads the data based on the platform. I think it may have not updated all the templated text or all the, dynamic variables. But now we can close that. We can reload and we will be able to then fetch the credits. The nice thing is, though, we're loading the entitlements in the application, as you can see, and we're getting the credits. So let's take a look at what Lovable is telling us about that. Thanks for the Despia user agent details. That explains the current failure. Our paywall offering function forwards platform web to RevenueCat, but the version 1 offerings API only accepts real store platforms like iOS or Android. That's why we're getting invalid platform and non-2xx response on web. But also, it doesn't seem like we're getting this at all on the native one. So coins are governed by quick nodes. Let's see. Let's tell it. Let's actually
Let's implement this plan. It could be that it didn't set up the user agent correctly. I'm just going to give it the benefit of the doubt because we need to make sure that when we call our edge function that we are actually being able to provide the platform that it runs into Supabase, aka Lovable Cloud, to process this accordingly. So it seems like we're now doing we're having web fallback to iOS. We're going to see if this fixes the problem. If it doesn't fix the problem, we need to examine the web application code a little bit more to see what RevenueCat is receiving. And we can then just take a look at the server logs and see what's going on. Okay, so now I want to try this in the mobile application. So let's try opening the mobile application. And you don't have to deal with all this complexity that I have to deal with if you wouldn't use the Offerings API and you would just hard code the data. Maybe something we should have done, but now as you can see, we're not getting the offerings. So let's say I just made 2 attempts and used it on my iOS app, which should have included iOS as a platform. Check the logs because I still got the same error. I think there is an issue on our backend and the data we send to it, possibly from the front end. I'm going to go to the chat, and now I wanted to take a look at the logs of our server to see what's going on here. So let's see. So it's thinking hard. Again, you would not need to deal with all of this complexity if we wouldn't use the offerings. But the offerings can be a little bit helpful, especially when you want to load and update things without having to update the front end. But you could also store this data on your back end. It's just, once you have it set up a little bit more convenient, having this kinds of stuff run through RevenueCat, you can update it on the mobile app and all that kind of stuff. You have a nicer UI for it. But besides that, we can also just hard code the data and it'll work just fine. But, that's something that I did not necessarily think of doing yet. But I think also maybe because we're proxying the API call, it just puts Supabase as a refer, as a user agent in there. And then it thinks, no, I don't recognize this one. So because it looks for the X platform header, which could be defaulting to being the server, which could cause issues. So we want to double check for that. And I'll definitely take this YouTube video transcript and turn it into a guide that shows you what actually worked with copy-pastable prompts. But now here's what's going on. Let's see if my assumption is true. Thanks. I checked the backend logs for paywall offerings and confirmed the failures you saw. The function is receiving platform iOS from your iOS app, resolving it to iOS, but RevenueCat still returns 400 code 7,000 in log platform. That points that we're sending the platform to RevenueCat, not what the front end detects. Likely root cause RevenueCat's version 1 offerings endpoints expects the platform to be provided via a header rather than a query parameter. We're currently passing platform iOS, so I invented a parameter that is not accepted by the API. So when we provide the platform, we need to provide a header called X platform. Has nothing to do with Elon, but it's called X platform. It's a HTTP header that would need to be iOS or Android. And Lovable thought it would be a smart idea just adding a platform parameter, which is not something that exists. So we need to update the paywall offering backend to keep the platform whitelist and web to iOS fallback. We're going to call this without the platform query string, and then we're going to set the X platform, no, not trying to open X here, the X platform header. And then this sounds like it could work, but let's also look at no, not troubleshooting docs in Lovable. Let's look at RevenueCat offerings API, REST API. I want to verify the docs myself because I'm not trusting AI anymore. Okay, let's look at the offerings API. Let's see, where's the offerings API? Offerings, okay, let's look at that. Okay, so the offerings API should give us offerings. They should give us a REST API. Fetch offerings. We'll look at the API reference for get offerings, right? So we have app user ID. We have X platform. This will be iOS, Amazon, Android, Stripe, Roku. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to put this into Lovable. Let's say we can default to Stripe for WEC. Okay? Let me fix my grammar here. Here are their docs. So always double check when Lovable tells you, no, we need to do it like this. Look at the real documentation, see if it's correct. Now we see there is no parameter platform. There's X platform. That's how it needs to be set up. So sometimes just looking at the REST API documentation, even if you don't understand it, just trying to look at the stuff like what are the available parameters. We need app user ID, right? We would need the app user ID. I think the next issue that we're going to have is that we're not sending the app user ID, but thank God we copied this whole thing, so now Lovable can make it make sense, right? So this is something that we need to consider, when we're implementing those things, and this is something that can actually help quite well. So now if we look at Lovable here at the implementation, you will see perfect. I see RevenueCat supports Stripe, all that kind of stuff. Now we're going to implement the plan. Now we're actually going to implement web payments because I feel like I really feel good today. So I wanna get this set up. So now as you can see, RevenueCat has web payments. I need to connect with Stripe. I'm not going to show you my Stripe account, but I'm going to be back in a second. So I now installed the application in my Stripe demo account. And now as you can see, I'll be taking to my Stripe demo account here with the RevenueCat integration inside of Stripe. And it's still loading. So let's see. And as you can see, I can now, sign in with RevenueCat. So I go back here to RevenueCat. I'm going to link my Stripe account. And now I'm going to be going back to Stripe. So you see how they're doing OAuth here, There you go. And now this RevenueCat integration is set up and I should be able to set up some stuff, navigate to the customer page to view their information. Okay, so this is nice. Now we have this link. So now Stripe this link. Now we add a web configuration here. So I'm going to select my Stripe account in the web configuration, automatically detect and charge tax rates from Stripe tax. I'm probably going to select that platform as a service. Let's just do this for now. App name, task flow, support email, hey@despia.com. Used to be shown in abstract badges, shown to customer. I don't have that yet. So let's save the changes. Okay, now we have the setup. So now we can set up the appearance, the icon. I don't think that's needed. So I'm just going to skip this for now. Public key, redemption links. I think we're good. So we got public key, redemption codes, all that kind of stuff. I think. Apologize for my computer bugging out. I don't know. I have an assumption that maybe the streaming with the AI happening in the background, but I just refreshed everything. Should be now smooth for the next couple of minutes. But let's use that and let's actually publish this. Let's update this. And I may need to add Stripe to my offering because we don't have an offering nor a product created in Stripe. So that may cause an error on the web, but we have it updated now. So let's try if we're getting, I can also work with wrong data. I'm fine with that as long as I'm getting something. Buy coins, still getting the error. I hope that we're going to get this on the mobile platform. If we're not getting this on the mobile platform, we're just going to screw this whole offering idea, and we're just going to implement it custom. So let's close that one. Let's go here. Yeah, still getting the same error. So we're going to discard that idea, or let's see. Let's go one step back to Lovable, and let's say still the same error. Check Backend logs. Okay. And now I'm going to go to the chat, and I'm going to have the chat one more time look into that. If not, we're just going to not use the offerings, and we're just going to set this up manually with the front-end code. That should be quite simple as well, because we already had it outlined. So we're going to take a look at that. Let's check the backend logs, but also while we're doing that, let's go to the product catalog. Let's go to offerings on my Lovable app offering. And we got core packages. We don't need to add a paywall for this. I think we don't need to. Let's go to the web, create a web product. Now I'm just going to create a web product here. Let's call this identifier weekly. Name will be weekly. Billing cycle weekly. No free trial, no grace period. Base price is going to be $4.99. Okay, and we're going to create the product now with RevenueCat Web. There you go. Okay. So now we go to the platform here, and under weekly, I'm going to edit this one. So under the weekly offering, I can now select the weekly subscription that runs on the web, and I can save that. So I hope we should be able to get this data back, but also we can also go to the web here with Stripe connected, and we can create a purchase link. And the purchase link could get this core packages here. Internal name will be core, just for testing. Paywall header footer. I think we just set something. Success redirect to customer to default success page. Download and redeem instructions. No. Let's go in here. Header. Hello. Thanks. Terms and conditions, https://despia.com. Display products below names, anything else required. Select an option, allow them to make another purchase. Show the success page. Let's see, core packages. We'll take this one. This is required. Did I miss something? Let's just put something in here. There you go. That's fine. See, it's a low effort solution I'm doing here, but you can now, no, we should be able to web purchase links. Let's go in here. Let's go to edit appearance, open config, say copy link template, and then you would just add the user ID, user123, copy production URL. So now if we would paste this inside of here, we would get RevenueCat's web paywall. You can continue, look at that. And now we can purchase because we're in Stripe, we're not in test mode. We are in test mode, but this is production, so it's not going to work. So we need to show the sandbox URL here, user123, copy the production URL. We would paste this in here, and then you could show this link also manually in your app if you want. And I think we have some issues because we're in the Stripe sandbox here, but let's try that one. Let's see. Page not found, because we need to add the user, right? /user. Okay, let's copy sandbox URL. That should do it. Okay, let's try that one more time. Okay, continue. And this message appeals only this because Stripe text isn't enabled. Oh, I got to enable Stripe text, but I'm not going to do this on my account right now. So you could then get those links and introduce them in your app if the system is iOS based on the user agent. So meaning it includes iPad or iPhone, and you're in the store location USA. And Despia lets you set that up, and there are some, best practices that RevenueCat lets you do, so you can funnel people out to RevenueCat's web checkouts, which are 27% less commissions than the in-store ones that Apple offers.
But I think I already made this overly complicated by touching this in the video, but I think it's still important to know. So let's look into Lovable. Thanks. I checked the backend logs for paywall offerings. What I see in the updates returns. iOS requests 403. Secret keys should not be used in your app. So first of all, this is running a client-side call. This shouldn't happen. Incoming platform iOS, resolved platform iOS. Calling RevenueCat with X platform header. Web requests. Invalid platform, Stripe key resolved. Calling with header Stripe. What this means. 403 on iOS. The offerings endpoint is rejecting the secret API key. RevenueCat's offering API is enabled to be called with the public app specific or legacy public API, not the secret key, even though we're calling from the backend. That endpoint specifically disallows secret keys. So this is easily to solve. If we just have Lovable implement the plan, it'll ask us for our public iOS and our public Android key. And then this should resolve the issue. And we're just conditionally taking the keys, the SDK keys, because it seems to be a front-end call that we're doing here. But we should do it on the back end for, quality purposes, quality management. Let's say, would we not need or actually maybe there's different API key. Let's double check. Let's go to the API keys. There's secret keys. There's sandbox app keys. So API secret, we don't need a secret key, right? So we need probably the SDK key. And the SDK key is different for all platforms. So we need to tell Lovable, do we not need a SDK API key for iOS, Android, and web? I think RC handles them separately. Okay, that's fine. AI is good at detecting my grammar. Okay, we'll take a look at that. But I think this is what actually is resulting into this problem where we should be calling this on the front end, actually. And that makes sense because you're just loading the paywall data. Should probably be called from the front end. I think, though, making it call from the back end is still beneficial. So if something goes wrong, you still have the logs on the server that you can, review later on to make sure that things are fixed, and you can have a proxy in between to monitor and send you emails when, things crash overly often. But let's take a look. It now says, great question. You're absolutely right to think about this carefully. Let me check and look at that. Perfect. You're absolutely correct. Let me read the authentication. Yes, you're absolutely right. RevenueCat has different types of API keys. And we need to understand which one. Public API calls also app-specific keys used for SDK, client-side. Secrets key, the problem we're hitting. Secret API keys should not be used in your app. So this is a front-end call, or at least we're calling it on the back-end, but it's still a front-end call. So the solution, SDK key, RevenueCat, iOS, Android. Okay. So keep the secret key. Does this match your understanding? Should I prepare a plan? Let's tell it. Prepare, please. Okay, and I'm going to send this now to Lovable, and we're going to have it now implement the plan, or first create the plan, and then we're going to have it implement the plan, which essentially will end up asking us for some secrets, the SDK secrets, meaning SDK secrets means code, APIs, systems that you run with RevenueCat on the UI of your application, not intended to be run on the backend. We can still run them on our backend for better observability and all that kind of stuff. But since they're introduced and created to be run client-side, aka on the front end, aka on the UI, they shouldn't expose the secret key, which is the problem that we're facing here. So that's fine. So now it's going to update that. It's going to map it to Stripe. Web is going to be mapped to Stripe. We're going to have the X header set to Stripe. So we're going to use the web purchases. So now while this keeps streaming, keeps creating the Supabase functions here, we're just going to wait. And now, And now we're going to implement the plan. Guys, I apologize for being in half a second. So I got great news. If we take a look at this right inside of here, we're going to see a couple of things. First of all, it's now asking us for the iOS public key. So we go back to RevenueCat, we go to API keys, and now as you can see, you see here SDK API keys. These are the APIs keys you'll use to configure the RevenueCat SDK. Public API keys are automatically generated for each of your apps. I'm now going to copy the one for iOS for Apple, right? Now we're going to go back to Lovable and paste this one right inside of here and submit. Now the next one will be Android. So now we're going to go and copy the Google one, the Android public SDK API key, and we're now going to put the Android one inside of this Android environment variable. We're going to submit, and now here comes the last one. This will be the web one, so we have web billing. I'm going to copy this one. This goes through the RevenueCat one. So I'm going to go and do the Stripe one inside of here. Let's submit this. And now this will probably fix the entire issue that we have been having with this whole situation. So that seems like it's working on it. So we'll wait a little bit and let's hope that it's fast. Now it's editing the functions. Oh, it's probably restructuring the backend a little bit. So that may take a little bit. So I'll make a cut for that and we'll take a look at that together. So it seems like it was just successful with the update. So let's try publishing this again. So let's update this. It seemed like it also fixed some of the backend errors I had from the previous video. See how great Lovable works? Let's open that. And let's check this out. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit scared of trying this again. I don't want to get any false hope here, but let's see. It's loading. No offerings available at this time. I'll take that one. You know, on the web, I think we incorrectly set up because we're doing like production or something. So I can live with that. I think there's probably some kinks that we need to get all sorted out here on the back end of things because I connected it to a sandbox account. But I think that's fine. It's not giving me an error. That is a good sign. So let me see if I can share my screen, and hopefully it works on the iPhone and we can test the in-app purchases. So let's see. I'm excited. It's like Christmas. There you go. Let's open that. Okay. I'll work on safe areas next video. Don't judge me on that. Okay. So it's loading the coin balance. And no offers available at this time on all platforms, which shouldn't happen, but it's a good sign. It means we're getting the API. It just doesn't mean either we're getting the format that we are expecting or it's returning nothing. But Lovable will be able to help us with that. But we're loading the entitlements and we're going to get the tokens and the coins. Right now we have 0. So we can also check for that is already fully integrated, which is very important. So now, no way. My mouse just died. Ugh. Damn. Okay. So my mouse just died. I gotta get the cable here. Gotta move it over here. I apologize. Should have been better prepared for this video, but now my mouse works again. So that's good. So now I'm going to say, in chat mode, I get the message now that there are no offers available. That seems to be wrong. I have all set up that there are no offers. That seems to be also. Check the back end, please. Okay, now I'm going to put this in the chat to take a look at this with the offering setup that RevenueCat has. Now, I really regret starting the offering setup. It will probably going to save you some time later down the road, but this seems to be like a big time waste to start with. You don't need to use the offering API. You can also hard code everything, but probably long term, it's better to use the offers one. So we have web purchase, where we have that synced with the core one. That seems to be fine. I got the offering ID for the REST API. So how about I do this? How about I copy this whole page here? And that should be it. And I have RC weekly one time. So let's just copy the whole page. Maybe it needs to have those information set up. So let's go. I'll check offering fetch successfully with the correct iOS public ID. Now I can see the issue. The paywall component is looking for offerings in this structure, but we need to check the structure RevenueCat is actually returning. The edge functions logs offering fetch successfully, but we need to see what the actual response is. Let me check what RevenueCat's API returns by looking at the response structure more carefully. Looking at the code flow, edge functions successfully fetches from RevenueCat. Data structure might not match what Frontend expects. RevenueCat is returning data. Backend logs show success, but data structure might not have current offerings ID or might be empty. Line no offers available. Let me check what RevenueCat actually returns. Issue diagnosis. The backend successfully is fetching offerings from RevenueCat. Logs confirm offering fetched successfully with iOS public key, SDK key. That's good. So it worked on iOS, but frontend is showing no offers available. So root cause, the paywall component expects this structure, but RevenueCat might not be returning. Might be returning an empty offering response, no products, a different structure than expected. Okay, step 1, detailed response logging to edge function. Log the full response. Okay, so now it's implementing a plan that we need to implement to debug. So right now, Lovable can't see what RevenueCat is returning, so it can't set up the data. Maybe the documentation has access to is outdated because of some knowledge cutoffs. So what we're doing here is now we're implementing some structure. We're implementing a system that allows the AI to take a look at what's happening on our backend, what RevenueCat is returning, so then it can adjust our component structure to, render based on the JSON structure, based on the data structure that's being returned. Because if it is if it's expecting a different structure than it's getting, it may be loading the data successfully, but it will not work because it can't be displayed on the front end. So this is one of the issues where your backend is all doing its job and RevenueCat is doing its job, but the front end is expecting the wrong data. And because it's expecting the wrong data, it's looking like nothing is loaded, even though actually something is loaded. So you're in this journey here and setting up RevenueCat, you're going to be a 10x engineer when you're done with this video. So now it added some code, so we're going to publish the app, and what it wants us to do is it wants us to just open this one more time, not that it works, but so it can check this out. So I'm just going to, I don't think I need to share my screen for that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to open the app on my iPhone again, and I'm just going to, recreate the issue. So I'm going to wait till the information loads here, and I'm going to buy some coins, get the error that nothing is available. But now that I got the error, I'm going to go back to chat mode. I just did it again. Please check the logs. Okay, and now I sent it to here. So we just did it again. And now, because we just did it again, it now logged it in the backend. So now Lovable can take a look at it, analyze the structure in the backend logs, and make sure that, we're actually going to set it up so it works with the data that's being returned. Perfect. I found the issue. Looking at the logs, the problem, a RevenueCat is returning a valid current offering ID, an offerings object with one offering, but the offering has 0 packages. The packages array is empty. The offering object has a key of 0 instead of Lovable app. And even if we access this, there's no packages inside. Root cause. This is a RevenueCat dashboard configuration issue, so it's our issue. The offering exists, but no products attached to it. You need to go to RevenueCat, navigate to Lovable app offering, add products to this offer. You need to create product. We do have products in the offer. Verify RevenueCat configuration. Check that products exist in RevenueCat coin packages. Check that products exist in RevenueCat coin packages. Verify the app, test again. So let's check RevenueCat again. So we have the packages. Okay. So we have package. We have the paywall. We have metadata. I don't think we need that. We got those in here and they seem to be active, but maybe there's something that we got to set up here. So we got this all going. They seem to be all active. So metadata, web purchase link, paywall, this all looks good to me. So I think we do have a backend issue and we're probably not giving it the correct information. So let's copy this. And I'm just going to go to Lovable and say, it seems to be all configured correctly. Here is my RevenueCat offer. RevenueCat offer. And I'm going to paste this in here, and then I'm also going to upload a screenshot of that. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to make a screenshot. I got to be outside of the screenshot, though. Let's go in here. Let's capture this. I think there's probably a key in this API call that we missed. Maybe we need to provide the weekly ID to it or something like this. Like, it seems to be a small issue. So I'm just going to upload the screenshot that I just made here. And we're going to have Lovable analyze that a little bit to see what's happening here in our application. So let's send that to Lovable. And we're just going to wait till it now analyzes this and gives us some information for this. So let's wait and be patient. Okay, I see the RevenueCat offering is configured with packages. You have weekly package, custom package. However, backend logs show that RevenueCat is returning 0 packages in the API. This is the key issue. Let me check a few critical things. Based on the logs and your RevenueCat configuration, I can see the issue. The backend log shows, even though your RevenueCat dashboard shows packages confirmed, the API is returning empty packages. This typically happens due to one of the reasons. Current offering not set. The most common issue is your offering exists but may not be set as the current offering in RevenueCat. Solution: in your RevenueCat dashboard, go to Offerings, make sure it's marked as current offering. There should be a toggle or setting for that. Okay, if that's the case, this is going to be a terrible UI they did. Let's go to the offerings. Actions, duplicate. I don't see this. So let's see. Offerings are used to test different package comparison by its variant. Let's see. Let's look at their offering documentation here. How offerings work. Default offering. The RevenueCat dashboard allows you to choose which offering should be the default offering for customers in your project. This default offering will be returned in the purchases. So offering greater if not current. So current offering, the default offering, creating an offering. So they're creating an offering here. The identifier is standard, okay? Additional packages, you can add additional stuff to that, and they won't let me scroll, okay? Any product, removing packages, fetching offerings via the get offerings method. I got actually a shitty interface for that. It's not fully clear in how you got to set this up. See displaying products for more. I hope that my struggle helps you. We strongly recommend using the current offering feature, see displaying products for more info. So let's see. We'll fetch. Let's look for current. Let's look at this. Get offering method will fetch offerings from RevenueCat. These are predefined in most cases. Avoid pre-warming offering cache on Android device applications via the current property.
You must choose one offering that is the default offering, which can be easily accessed via the current property. How the heck do I set a current offering? I don't know. There's no switch to make it a current offering. So we got to use Claude for that. Or I can use Dia. In RevenueCat, I have an offering. How can I make the offering the default offering? I see no button for that. See, I mean, maybe I'm on, I don't know. Where do I make a default offering? Do I have to name it specifically, or let's see. Targeting, maybe it's under targeting rules, but no, that's state live. It's live. It's not scheduled. Select offering if customer matches. No, this shouldn't be. Shouldn't have anything to do with targeting. Let's take a look at the offerings again. This is very confusing, I have to say. Maybe it's, if I go to edit here. No, it's not something we do in here. Package. Interesting. Let's see what Dia is saying. You can set the default offering from the offerings tab by choosing make default. How to make an offer the default. In RevenueCat dashboard, go to your project's offerings tab. Okay, I'm going to follow this very closely. We're going to go now to offerings. So we have overview, charts, customers, paywalls, targeting, experiences. So we go to offerings. I'm at offerings, okay. In the list of offerings, find the one that you want to make default. Open its action menu and click make default. Open its actions menu. Okay, I would assume this is the actions menu, okay? Make default. I can make this default. Why can't I make this default? Is it already default? Let's see what just happens if I add a new offering. New. And let's just save this offering. Test. Let's save that. Their stuff is really confusing. And I can make this default now. Let's make this default. Okay, now this is the default offering. Oh, so this was already the default offering. Okay, now I'm understanding this a little bit better. So let's delete this. Okay. And now, so I'm doing already the default offering. Okay, so let's tell this. This is already the default offering. So let's tell Lovable I checked, and let's copy also the identifier. Lovable app is already the default offering. Let's go to the chat and let's send it to that. I think we should have just set this up on our backend and saved ourselves all the hassle, but it's not a full RevenueCat integration video unless you have the offerings. I can't wait for the paywall video. Let me check the latest logs to see what RevenueCat is returning now. The logs confirm that RevenueCat is returning 0 packages even though Lovable app is set as the current offering. This is a critical clue. Let me check the RevenueCat webhook function to see if there's any additional configuration we can verify. Based on the logs of the RevenueCat configuration, I can see the issue now. The API is successfully calling RevenueCat with the iOS public key, but getting the response, but packages are empty, even though you have packages configured. The problem, RevenueCat public API have read-only permissions and returns packages that are configured for specific. So RevenueCat's public SDK keys, iOS, Android, have read-only permission and only return packages that are configured for that specific platform. The logs show package count 0. So this means RevenueCat is still filtering out your packages because they might not be properly configured for iOS, or there's a mismatch. Things to verify in RevenueCat dashboard. Check the weekly page. Go to your weekly page in the Lovable app offering under products. You show with weekly product, verify the product is exactly matches your Apple. I think it may be because there's some missing metadata.
let's see, does it work on the web? If it works on the web with Stripe, it should show the offering and it should work. So let's try this on the web. It could be because there's missing metadata on Apple and it doesn't apparently load the offerings unless it's fully approved by the store. So let's see. I just did
the web call for testing. What do you see for that? Does it return something? Does it return something? Let's go to chat. Let's take a look at that. Okay. I think it may be because if you're doing it manually, you can just, you can still test them even though the status is missing metadata. But the status here is published, and also the web building also needs to have an entitlement of access, now that I'm seeing this, but they're published. So I assume it may work actually on Android, and it may work on web. It just may not work on the iOS device because iOS has missing metadata and the status isn't published. That's my assumption. Let's see. Let me check the recent logs. I can see your web test call just came through. The logs show platform detected, Stripe key used, Stripe public key, result still 0 packages returned. It's actually very revealing. The same issue is happening across both iOS and Stripe web platforms. RevenueCat is consistently returning the offering, but with an empty packages array. What this tells us, since both iOS and Stripe platforms are returning 0 packages, this points to one of these issues. Product's not active in RevenueCat. The product might be in draft or inactive state. No, they're all active. Package assignment issue. The products might be added in the packages but not properly saved or published. Needs to exist. RevenueCat cache. Sometimes RevenueCat caches configurations. Changes can take a few minutes to propagate. Next step in RevenueCat, go to offerings, click edit the offering, make a small change like adding a space to the description, save it again, and force a refresh. It's a good point. Let's try going back to the product catalog. Let's go to offerings. Let's edit this thing. Let's go on edit. Display name, app, offering. Okay. We got a package. Change the space. Get 25 coins now. Okay. Oh, maybe the issue is because the web doesn't have one set. Let's see. Let's do weekly. Let's save that. Okay. Now the offering is updated. Okay. Let's try going back to the web application. And let's try the offering. I want to try this one more time. I want to take a look at the network tab. No, we're actually console logging the offering. So if I click on here, let's reload the application again. You see it gives us offering count for this app, but then it gives us a package count of 0. This offering doesn't seem to have packages, but it has packages. Oh my God. As you can see, we have packages. So, yeah, I understand why they added. Let's try actually removing the one-time one, and let's save that. And I just want to see if it may be the name. Let's see. No, still doesn't work. Doesn't load the stuff. So I would highly suggest you don't use the offerings when you build a custom paywall. It doesn't seem to work well. I may be doing something wrong, could be me, but this seems like a waste of time. We have it correctly configured to what I would assume. We have weekly, we got this set up in here. Maybe metadata is needed that allows you remotely configuration. I don't think we need that. Web purchase link. Maybe they need to be linked to a paywall, but I don't know. It doesn't seem to be like that good of a feature to use. So I'm going to fix this now. I'm going to say forget about the offering
API and just do the iOS/Android one on the front end. It does not seem to be worth it at all. Okay, let's send that. Let's have it create a plan. I think this is definitely overly complicated. The offerings, they don't really help you. Offerings or sections that are offered to a customer on your paywall. I think what could have happened is maybe RevenueCat, because they just introduced the paywall editor, maybe they made offering something that's only available on paywalls now. Let's actually ask Dia that. Are RC offerings now only available on their paywalls or still via V1 REST API? I'm using them for default on V1 REST API and it ain't working. Okay, let's see. Let's start that. I need to clarify the ability. Maybe that this could be that they changed that. Let's see. So I'm doing this so you can save yourself lots of time. Oh, this is delightful. RevenueCat offerings aren't restricted to paywalls only. You can fetch them by the docs still reference. However, with the V1 endpoint, common gotcha is authentication headers. The offering platform only accepts via if you check. We're doing this, but it's not working. Let's say we are doing this, but we get no packages back for the offers, even though they are available on the platform. Let's see. And then we're just going to hardcode this. And I'll just put them in the Lovable Cloud database so I can edit them. That should do. Empty packages typically mean platform mismatch or wrong API key header. But then it should give us like wrong API key offering. So valid offering can still ensure the request is scoped to the correct app. Use the app-specific public key that you're fetching, not the project-wide secret. Use the correct verify the offering actually has packages. It has packages. Maybe I just don't understand this correctly, but it seems to be very confusing in how that is structured. We have the packages looking for these on product organization. We have the product catalog. No, this doesn't. Entitlement. No. Okay, so we're just going to hardcode that. I understand your frustration. You're right. The browsing is adding unnecessary complexity. Yeah, so now Lovable is saying, I understand your frustration. You're right. The RevenueCat offerings API is adding unnecessary complexity. Let's simplify this by hardcoding the product IDs directly in the front end. This is a good option for now. Sometimes when you have RevenueCat manage, like this shouldn't, I mean, it's not actually something they need to manage. We can store the products that we're selling ourselves in the backend and load them ourselves. If this is a small task for us to do ourselves, if it doesn't get set up correctly in RevenueCat properly, and I'm not going to be willing to spend another hour on this, we're just going to iterate because otherwise we're stuck at this hurdle forever. So we're just going to find an alternative for that until we have a better way of figuring this out. Then I'm going to make a video about it. We'll also have paywalls coming. Hopefully that works nicer with the offerings. Maybe that's why we're still working on it. But, you know, we're going to work on that. But we're just going to load it for now. We can have RevenueCat manage the entitlements. They're working in our app. The tokenization should work. That seems to be good. It's just the new API for that. But I think just loading the basic paywall data, we can just do this ourselves.
So perfect. Now I can see the current implementation. Let me create a simplified plan and remove the API dependency and hardcode the product directly in the front end. Simplified paywall implementation plan. Okay, this is good. So we're going to go test flow weekly, test flow 25 coins, weekly for the Stripe one. So we may have been able to have Stripe also implemented. So let's have it implement the entire plan. And let's see. So I have apologized for taking about half an hour or almost an hour away from this video just for fighting with the Offerings API. I promise I won't do this again. I'll have Lovable hard-coded. Once it works hard-coded, I'm going to move it to our backend so we can edit it from Lovable Cloud as well. So we still have some dynamic loading inside of it, making it nicer and better, but that's going to be it. Now I'll let Lovable create the plan and I'll be back when it's done. So Lovable just finished it, so I already have updated it, but let's do this again here. And now let's try this on our device. So let's open the application. Fingers crossed. And let's see. Coin balance. Okay. Buy coins. And now as we can see, I can buy the coins. The prices are absolutely wrong, but we're going to fix that. Or is it $1.99? I don't think it's $1.99, but let's try buying some coins. This feature requires the mobile app. We are in the mobile app. Okay. So, well, it shows something. I think RevenueCat or the implementation on the front end has a little misunderstanding in where we are. Let's say if I run it in, if I run the checkout for iOS/Despia native in a device with user agent, iPhone with user agent includes iPhone and includes Despia, it still shows this feature requires web. It requires native. Why? Let's put this in the chat. I assume that there's some mismatch in the user agent check, that it just doesn't set it up correctly. So we'll take a look at this. I need to investigate why the native feature detection isn't working. Found the issue. The problem is on source hooks use paywall TypeScript line 17. It's checking for type of Despia doesn't equal undefined. That does not exist. But according to the Despia documentation, you should be accessing Despia as a property of the window object. What the heck is? I think I smoked some crack. Like, no. I'm the CEO. I never have approved that we look for the user agent. Get it? There you go. So next time, Lovable is telling you, no, just look for window.despia property. If this is defined, no, it shouldn't work. You should be looking at the user agent. So just tell it you're the CEO as well, and it works on your end. It's afraid of me. I understand now. You're absolutely right. I apologize for the confusion. The issue is that we are checking the user agent to detect Despia, but we should be directly accessing. No, you shouldn't. You should check the user agent, nothing else. Second, can we just do a thread message to AI? Okay, perfect. I love when AI corrects your own product and it just does it like 100% wrong. We gotta touch up our documentation, I guess, a little bit to make it understand. I understand. You want me to check only the user agent is running, no direct window.despia. Yeah, because window.despia will not be set correctly if your app is a React app. Because of like
the whole window situation in type safety. Checks if the purchase logic, let me, perfect, now I can see, I can see it clearly. That IAP handler already has the correct is in Despia function that checks fixed plan use user agent check only the problem. This is the problem. So Lovable is still wanting to use window.despia, but it doesn't understand the documentation quite right. So here's what we need to do. We need to now go to lovable.despia.com, and we're going to copy the prompt that we have here for Despia at Lovable for the in-app purchases. And I'm going to tell it you have to use the Despia function via the npm, not the window one. Follow the docs. And I'm going to send that inside of here. So I'm going to go to the chat, and now I'll have the chat, take a look at that and hopefully get this set up correctly this time. So now we're going to have this, think about it, and it should now implement this. So now, as you can see, it's saying, I need to check the current implementation to understand what needs to be changed. Let me look at the relevant files. Perfect. I can now I can see the issue clearly now. Let me check the package JSON to see if Despia native is already installed. Excellent. Now I understand the complete. So it is refactoring the whole thing. It's now testing Despia in the user agent. That is good. We can do that. It imports Despia from Despia, then calls the Despia function. That is correct. Beautiful. Okay. And we're importing Despia, and we're calling this RevenueCat. This looks good to me. We have the external user ID. We're setting the product ID. Yes, this looks fantastic. Remove the window. Yes, this is exactly what we want. So let's implement the plan here with Lovable. And then I'm going to go inside of here in my project here for task flow inside of RevenueCat. And I'm going to go to my product catalog, and I'm going to now go to my products here, and the product price for the weekly is it's like $3.99 a week, right? And I can see that because, it's not on the store, gotcha. But no, it was like $4.99, and this was $3.99, I think. So we're now going to, in the next prompt, say, perfect. Let's say, perfect. Can we now for our paywall store the paywall product data, the paywall product data in a products database, not client side. I need to store Android/iOS/web payment ID, and also if it's one time IAP or subscription, and for IAP if consumable or not. And then I'm also going to say I also need to store the iOS/Android/web price. For current setup, weekly is $4.99 USD for all, and 25 coins are $3.99 for iOS and Android. No web offer for that. And now I'm going to go into the chat mode and have it set that structure up with the chat. Lovable just created a full plan now, so let's take a look at that. So it says perfect. I can see the current hard-coded products in paywall TSX. Now let's create a comprehensive plan to move this into a database-driven approach. So it's now going to create this whole plan to migrate this so we have it all dynamic. So let's go all the way down here and let's implement the plan. So now Lovable will implement the plan so we can manage our offers inside of our own database, and we do not have to use RevenueCat's offers for that because that didn't seem to work that well. I assume we'll probably figure out at some point how this has to be set up, but I just don't see it being worth the hassle and the effort right now to set this up. But maybe it turns out to be quite simple. Maybe someone in the comments knows how to set it up, then maybe go back to it, migrate to it. But I could not understand that. The UI was a little bit too confusing to me because I added the packages, but it just didn't show up. So I didn't know where I had to click. That was not self-explanatory. But let's take a look at that. Now I'll create the edge functions and update the front-end components. So now it's setting it up so it can load the data inside of there. Very nice. And then there's some other prompts that we want to do, like make sure that, if it's a subscription, that, like if people are already subscribed, you mark the subscription as already being subscribed. But this is usually something we would do in the UI. It wouldn't be really part of the payment setup because they shouldn't see the paywall to begin with if they already paid. So I think this is a non-existent problem. This will be probably something for the next step where we're going to then, bring some more structure into the application, and it is probably a profile situation where they need to then manage their subscription and all that kind of stuff. But we'll take a look at that. So let's see, it's now editing and creating all of those files. This can take a little bit, so we'll jump to the part to when it's done. So now I just implemented this. So let's try updating the application here, and then we're going to take a look at if this will work, and hopefully it will work. So let's take a look at that. So it's still updating, and this will take a little bit. So let's open that here. And now, as you can see, the application loads. I can go to the store in the web application. It's loading my credits. Let's buy some coins. We're in web products now. And this feature requires a mobile app. I think it's still having some old configuration issues because it should fall back to the web purchase, but let's see if it does. So if I'm now going to go inside of here and I'm going to share my screen on my iPhone, and you will be able to take a look at the application together with me. Let's look at that. Okay. So now if I go here to my store, as you can see, we're loading the coins. Now, if I buy coins with the weekly subscription, it is telling me that no product found with the ID weekly. Because weekly is not a valid one. It thinks we're in the web, which is because it doesn't test the user agent correctly. So let's tell it, we need to check the user agent. Get the user agent as a string and see if that string includes iPad, let's do in quotes, iPad or iOS. Then use the correct product ID. Also for debugging, add the user agent string in UI. What it's doing now, it's testing the user agent, and I think it's not doing it correctly. So I think there's something going wrong in how it's doing that. So we're just going to take a look at that here. So let's see what it's doing. It will think about it a little bit. Let's see.
Now it's saying I'll update the platform detection to check for iOS in the user agent and add debug info into the UI. So we'll take a look at that. Now the user agent, I don't think it's doing that correctly because we didn't start properly with it. We started with a front-end implementation. Now we moved some of that logic on the backend. So I think it is going to be confused in what we're doing here. That's my assumption. So let's see if my assumption is correct. So let's see. Let's wait till this updates, and then we're going to open the application again here on my phone, and it will hopefully work. So let's take a look at that. Let's open that here. And let's check. Okay, now if we go to the store, and I didn't mean to click on Lovable. If we go to the store, as you can see, we're loading the coin information. We probably should have cached that. But now when I go and buy coins, as you can see, the user agent is Despia iPhone. But when I purchase, it says no product ID found, but it says no product ID found weekly. That's RevenueCat telling us there's an error. So, but it tells us that the user agent is iOS. So let's take a look at our database. I don't think it set up the data correctly, and this is something we can manually do. If you take a look at our table, we have products, right? And we have 2 products in here. And we have inside of here products, and we have coins, we have the description, we have consumable is active sort number, okay. And I think we have the product platform IDs database. So it created 2 databases. Well, that's hard to look at. And now we have the web ID, the, what is this? The platform product ID, and this is Android, iOS. Okay. This is an interesting setup, how it's doing that. But it does here for iOS on the weekly. It doesn't use iOS weekly. So I think there's an issue in how it loads data from the database. Let's see. Let's say I have a bug. I'm in iOS and it shows iOS products on the UI. I have a bug. I'm in iOS and it shows iOS products on the UI. Yet it still calls the in-app purchase for the web name. Why? Let's go to the chat. Let's have a think about that. I think there's an issue in how the data is being loaded from the database for the product when initializing it. Because I'm in iOS and it shows iOS products on the UI, yet, so I have I need to investigate the bug. Let me trace through. So the root issue, here's what's happening. The edge function is not receiving the platform parameter correctly. Looking at line 21 in Supabase edge functions, get platform parameter or web. So the function is looking for platform as a query parameter in the URL, yet paywall is sending it as a request body, so platform not in the URL. So it takes the platform, puts it in the body, not in the header. So you can put something in the URL when you're calling a server or in the payload, in the data that you're sending to the server. It's putting it in the wrong place. So the fix is by getting, it should be web equals, okay, instead of getting the parameter. So it would, take this object. Okay, this seems to be the fix for that. So let's implement the plan here. And then we're going to see if this will fix the application. So let's see. Now it's streaming the response back here to us, and it's looking at all the code files here. So let's take a look at that. Fix the add function now reads the platform from the request body. So let's update that. Let's take a look at that. Feed's still updating. Okay, fantastic. And now I can try this on my phone. So let's go back here. And I need to share my phone again with you so you can take a look at that. Let's look at that together. Let's see. Okay.
And now if I'm going to open the application, I would assume that this should now work. So now if I go in here and I'm going to buy coins, I'm getting my products and I'm getting the coins. That's good. Let's try buying the coins. Ooh, we got it. Yeah. This feels like $1 million. Even though it's $3.99. But look at that. We got it. I was almost going insane. I was like this short before going absolutely bazinga. Okay, let's try doing the purchase. Okay, there you go. So let's see if this works. If I'm going to reload my credits, I got 0 credits. So it works on the front end now. So now we got to fix the back end. That is what usually happens. So let's try this. Let's say I made the purchase now on iOS and it works. But I did not get my credits. Is RevenueCat managing this? Why is it not working? Is RevenueCat managing this? Okay, now I need to take a look at RevenueCat. So let's go to the overview here. You see, we just did this transaction and it's linked with my customer ID. And as you can see, we assigned them 25 virtual currencies. So I can see the data in RevenueCat. So let's tell this. So it does work. It just doesn't load it. So now we're going to say, I can see the user ID and the 25 added credits in RevenueCat, but not on my UI. So let's go to the chat. Let's take a look at that. But we're so close to getting this to work because as you can see, we have this now linked with our database ID. So based on this ID, I can understand in the database who this user is. So it's not anonymous anymore, which is quite a pain if you're using StoreKit or Android Billing Center yourself. It's very hard actually figuring out who the heck just purchased something. RevenueCat makes that way easier for you, and RevenueCat makes the whole process easier. Besides when you're doing offerings. But we're going to have the paywall API coming, don't worry. And as you can see, we just granted this 25 coin here. So they now have our virtual currency coin, and we're going to have that. We can also link it with the push notifications with one signal player ID, so we can create whole funnels like to recover cards and all that. So there's so much that we can do with this with RevenueCat. It's a great tool. But let's go in here. Let's say, great, the purchase is going through correctly now. Let me investigate why credits aren't showing up in your UI, even though RevenueCat shows. Let me check. Perfect. I can see the issue now. Let me check the database to confirm. Purchase complete successfully in RevenueCat. You see 25 tokens. Webhook fires, I can see both virtual currency transaction and non-recurring currency event, but Webhook fetches from RevenueCat and gets coin balance and entitlement 0. Result, your database shows 0, even though. So let's see. A solution, add retry logic to Webhook. Recommended add a small delay and retry mechanism in the Webhook to give RevenueCat time to update. Okay, that usually makes sense. Option 2, manual refresh button. The IAP handler already calls check entitlement, but you could add a manual refresh button that users can tap to force a sync after purchase. Use RevenueCat data directly. Some RevenueCat webhooks include new balance in the payload. We could parse that instead of making an API call. Polling after purchase. Poll the check entitlement option a few times with delays to catch when RevenueCat finally updates. I like the polling one with approach. I'd recommend option 1 and 2. Yes. Who 1 and 2, and I'm going to select 1 and 4. Please create a plan. Okay, and now we're going to have this create a plan. Taking money is something that takes the longest when you're doing it as a native app. But I hope this video helps you avoid the common pitfalls that I made all in this video. Like you got like all the pitfalls in one video that's like 3 hours, so you get it all in one package here. But I hope that this helps you. If it does, let me know in the comments. And if you have any questions when it comes to RevenueCat, let me know. And I hope that we can finish this today, so I can do some other stuff. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. So now this is streaming. Okay. I can scroll up when it... Okay, now it works. Plan. Fix countdowns with retry logic plus polling. I like polling. Polling is always good. Yeah, updated UI feedback. Let's just say we should to avoid infinite loops, because that is always common when you're doing polling, that sometimes get infinite loops. So it just finished the plan, so let's implement the plan. There you go. I think we don't have to worry about infinite loops because it says, you know, like with timeouts, which makes me feel pretty good. It has delays, so you're not going to have loop, 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 loop. Balance values at each attempt. Looks good to me. Initial polling, initial balance before polling, each poll attempt number, final sync balance. Okay, that looks good to me. Seems like a good plan. Now I want to try one thing. Let's just try opening the app and like fully closing the app. Because we're on a single page application, my assumption is maybe if I close the entire application, the countdowns will be updated, but it's still at 0. So there seems to be an issue where we're not getting the data synced on our backend, because we're not loading the data from RevenueCat. So we may be able to even create an API endpoint that's like an auth.me endpoint to RevenueCat to load the entitlements for the logged in user based on the RevenueCat user ID or the user ID that's in the database. But now the problem is that we have with this way of how currently Lovable wants to implement it. It doesn't want to load this data from the user, which is critical because now the user has 25 credits, and this webhook implementation will fix it moving forward. But it doesn't fix it if there's a server error and the credits don't go through. But because RevenueCat manages that for us, this should be the single source of truth. So while this will fix it, I would assume it's a flawed system. So let's say I want to natively get the coins and entitlements from the RC API based on the external user ID. Based on the external user ID. Forgetting entitlements. So the problem that we're having is it is not dynamically trying to load the credits from RevenueCat. Also tries to invent new Despia methods, which is probably something we don't want to do. So let's say there should be a way to load the currency data /count from the RC API. Let's go to chat. And now I'm also going to add the reference to the RevenueCat API. So let's do virtual currency RevenueCat. Okay, RevenueCat, virtual currency. And now we have this virtual currency page here, usage, and it'll give them items. And from your backend, we have this reading balances curl. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste this into Lovable. Okay. And now I'm going to say view send So I think I just actually found a solution to all our problems, not just our RevenueCat problem, but also to my recording problem, because Tella has a web app, and that seems to be working way better than their memory-sucking, memory-hungry desktop application. I think it's built in Electron. Otherwise, I couldn't explain myself why it's so memory-intensive and kind of sucks. But I think this is better now. So let's take a look at that. Now Lovable is saying I need to check the current RevenueCat integration to understand how we're fetching data now, and then plan the migration to use the version 2 virtual currency endpoint. So it creates this plan now to use the version 2 endpoint, because if we take a look at the virtual currency API, this is using the v2 API, but it wants to use the v1 because AI has knowledge cutoff. So there you go. This looks good. Let's see. Our currency name is coin. Okay, I'm just going to add this as a helpful information, and then let's hope this is going to implement the plan. Let's take a look at that. So this can take a little bit, so let's wait in the meantime. Okay, I'll implement the version 2 currency API migration using coin. Now we need the RevenueCat project ID. So I go to my RevenueCat project here. I go to project details, and I'm going to take the project ID like we did when we inputted this into Despia. So I'm going to put this inside of here. I'm going to submit, and now this is going to be all set up. So we already have the API for version 1 and for version 2. So if we go to RevenueCat, as you can see, and we go to API keys, we already have keys for version 1 and version 2 set with Lovable. So we should be good on that. So now I'll update both edge functions to use version 2 virtual currency API with coin as the currency code. Let's double check. If we go to product catalog virtual currencies, we will see, yeah, our code is coin. That is our digital dollar in our application. There you go. It's just, we can't call it dollar because it's not a real currency. It's a coin, but there you go. So now this will create all of that. It'll take a little bit, but there's one thing that we can, actually, I think maybe it's already faster than I thought. Let's see. No, but there's one thing that we can do. If we go to the Google Play console, in the meantime, we can already get it set up so this will work with our Android application. So if I go to, I gotta look for that because on the next page, there you go. If I go to test flow, right, I can already go inside of here, because remember how we built the new release? I can go to internal testing, and now I'm just going to promote my new release. So I'm just going to go on next, save and publish, and now my release is published. There you go. So now we can test the latest version also on Android to make sure that the whole implementation also works nicely on Android. So now this seems to be hopefully working this time. So we'll check this out. Let's update this. And let's take a look. This should now load in the application our virtual currency. So let me just share this real quick with my phone, and then we'll take a look at that together. So let's take a look at that here. My phone should be coming through. Let's see. Okay, there you go. And now we have this already updated in Lovable. So let's open the application and let's take a look at that together. So Now, as you can see, if I go in here, the balance should be loaded, and we're still getting balance 0 from our application. So let's tell Lovable.
When I open my
app, I still see balance 0, even though I have 25 coins set up
in the RC dashboard under
my account with the external ID, which is my user ID in the database, which is my user ID in the database. There you go. And now I'm going to go to RevenueCat, and I'm going to take a look at customers. See, it's loading a little bit. And let's see. Oh, I need to go to overview here in RevenueCat. And this will load a little bit. And we're now going to copy this ID here, which is our customer ID. So that's this ID here. And I'm going to paste this here. So for reference, I'm going to have the chat take a look at that. And we'll see now what this is doing. Let's see. Now it's thinking a little bit. So in the meantime, while it's thinking, we're just going to make a cut and we go back to the part where it is done with all that. So I got great news. And first of all, we're in Lovable. It did create the plat inside of here. And also, I found out why my computer has been so laggy when recording this, and I apologize for those little bit too much cuts going on here and me just being like laggy. I know why. And it has been because my computer was closed and it was directly in front of the window and the sun was just shining onto it, and I just touched it and it was like I could fry eggs on there, and it was closed, so there was like no circulation with the air. And that is because it was so buggy. So now the computer is right next to me. It's wide open. It's under the window in the shadows. It's cold as ice. And now they should be all fine. So I think we could just do one shotting the end of this, and then we can just test it beautifully. So let's take a look at this. So as you can see right inside of here, it now gives me the recommended approach. And this will be, keeping the keys and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to take a look at that and add separate keys, cleaner. And we already do that. Let's do option B, actually. Let's ask it. Let's do option B, but don't we already have 2 secret keys? Don't we already have 2 secret keys? Let's take a look at that. Already have 2 secret keys in the environment variables, Let's send this to Lovable. Let's take a look, because I think we already have that. See, because if I go to Lovable Cloud here and I look at my secrets, you see we have RevenueCat API key version 2 and version 1. So you're absolutely right. Okay, so let's see. Use keys for virtual currencies. Yeah, this looks good to me. Let's approve those changes. This creates the key in the dashboard. It creates the entitlement. Yeah, that seems good to me. So let's give it a shot. Let's go in here and let's implement this. I have version 2 API key. Update the version 2 secret
user version 2. I mean, we already have. I don't think it fully gets that we already have the version 2 API added, but that's completely fine. Update version 2 secret. Okay. It's Lovable's world. I'm just living in it. So let's go to API keys and edit again. Let's get the key here. Like we already have it, but okay. Let's paste it in there. And let's submit it. And now we're going to just take a look at that. So let's see, we got the action approved. So this will take a little bit. You see how beautiful and snappy and fast my screen is? The computer's not even hot. Look at that. I should record more videos at night. Let's see. Okay, now I'm just going to edit it. It may take a little bit because it's probably going to rewrite all the cloud functions. So how about we make another cut? But this is not a low quality cut. It's a high quality cut. Without... Oh, actually just did it. So there you go. Both add function are used separate API keys for entitlements and keys for coins. Okay, let's try that. Let's update that. And let's publish anyway. There may be some security things going on.
Okay, let's see.
And now I'm just going to try to open the app here on my phone. And let's see if this works in loading
The balance. As you can see, the balance is still 0.
So how do we fix this? Now, the nice thing about this is we are already loading this. So because we're already loading this, we can now access the log. So let's say I just opened the app with the account that has 25 coin and I see 0. Okay. Now, because I just opened it, it's now marked in the backend that it was opened. So, now we're going to be able to then, have Lovable take a look at that. Now, this video here is a follow along. It's not a follow along course. I know it a little bit better than you do. We're going to find this out together and we're going to work with it together. And I think it's great to learn from my mistakes that I'm doing here, but I think after doing it today, I can probably make a 1-hour video doing exactly the same thing that I did. But then this would be one of the videos that's like 1 hour. You watch it and you're like, sure, looks nice, but I'm stuck at this point. I think you don't have that with this video because we're going to be together stuck at all the stuff. It's just that you now have recorded how we're going to around the stuff that you'll be stuck at. So, it's a new type of format. Let's call it like that. But I think I should do a summary with the prompt so you don't have to watch 3 hours to figure out how to add RevenueCat. There should be a more streamlined approach for that. But I'm very proud in announcing that all the troubles that we have are RevenueCat based and not Despia based because the setup in Despia was literally 10 minutes. So there you go. But it's now updating the cloud functions and setting all of that up. I think it's reading the database, takes a little bit. So let's just have it reason this till the end, and then we're going to take a look at what... Oh, actually, the moment I want to jump off and cut you away, it comes up with a solution. So let's see. Thanks for flagging this. The backend is returning 25 coin for your user, and the database already shows coin balance 25 for... What's happening is the UI only reads from the local user subscriptions table. So actually, in this example, our backend is working. So this is why when you see an error in your application and it doesn't show the number, it doesn't mean that it's broken. The backend is 100% working, but the front end just doesn't update the UI accordingly. So we have a JavaScript front end issue, not a backend issue. So in this example, I might open coins will display correctly without manual refresh. So what it's doing is it takes the coins from a database and not from the RevenueCat data. So it's not synced, even though the coins should come from RevenueCat because that's where we're going to outsource the coin management as our single source of truth. So this should now implement this, and this plan should hopefully fix it. Because what we're doing is, and this is pretty much the critical part here, that's what's happening is the app UI only reads from the local user as subscriptions table on load and doesn't automatically invoke the entitlement sync on app open link. So unless you tap the refresh button on store page or the webhook event happens, it can be briefly shown. But that's not fully correct. Open the source page. I'm not loading it, but the fact is that it's showing me that it's loading the coins for the user correctly. If that is true in the logs, we need to be able to take a look at that. It may have fixed that, but we'll see. Done. Your coin balance will now auto sync on login. Oh, actually, it could be that we're loading it from the database still, and the database is not fully syncing with the API, but let's see. I assume that it may not work this time because it still doesn't fully get where the problem is based on what I hear the AI mumbling here. But let's see.
Take a look at that.
Let's go here and let's try this briefly on the application. I'm not going to share my screen yet.
You can just see that here because I don't think it's going to work. If it works, I'll share my screen so you can witness it though. See. Now it's loading forever. It's just saying loading, 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 loading. It's not loading the credits. So let's tell it, I think you are a little dumb. The coins will be managed by RevenueCat. So we should load the data from the coin, from the currency API on app load and not manage that on our database as we outsource coin management to RevenueCat. If RevenueCat is truly returning the correct data, it should be shown in the UI as 25 credits, 25 coins. Right now, I see 0 still. Let's go to the chat. Let's have it take a look at that. I think this is a good prompt because it is clearly saying that it should, maybe it'd be nicer to the AI in case they take over, but what it's clearly is doing is it's telling the AI very precisely that we expected to load the data from RevenueCat because that's how far as I understand this whole API needs to work to get the virtual currencies. Because the whole idea of loading the virtual currencies is being able to have RevenueCat manage the tokenomics of your token-based, subscription-based thing. So this feature is in early stage and under active development, while once available today is stable and ready to use. We're continuing, so it's stable to use. That's good to know, reassuring. But you can create your coins, dashboard balances, you need read and write, user configuration, rate limits, all endpoints for virtual currency under the available API are subject to limit of 480 requests per minute. If you exceed this limit, API will return too many requests, indicating there's rate limit has been reached. To avoid service interruption, we recommend implementing retry logic. If you hit the limit, the API will return a retry after header. Okay, so you need to put some queuing in there. Limitations. So users cannot have more than like 2 billion coins, okay? But this curl here essentially is the virtual allows you to retrieve from your backend. This response will include the balances for all virtual currency. So I think it's probably better loading the currency on application load and on major events from RevenueCat rather than having it be managed by our database, because that is, then we have 2 data sets and we need to make sure that they're managed. And as you can see, that is a pain because now if we have 2 data sets,
RevenueCat will say, hey, 25 coins, and our backend will say 0 coins. You don't have any. And then our app will say, no, you don't have any coins. So let's see, I hear you. The current behavior shows 0 because the UI is reading from our local user subscription row first and only shows live values once a sync is initiated. Meanwhile, RevenueCat already has 25 coins for your user. We should not call RevenueCat directly from the client. That would expose your API key. Of course, I meant like proxy it, of course. I'm curious, actually. I want to try something. What happens if I'm going to do another in-app purchase, so it runs another webhook? Will that update the coins? Now, when you implement such things, you always want to try a little bit around with this kinds of stuff. So let's start the broadcast here. So let me just share my screen with you, and then we'll take a look at that together. So it should be coming through any minute. Let's see. Okay. See, let's open that. Okay, now it's coming through. Okay. And now let's open the app. And I want to try this. I want to do like a little experiment, because I assume when I'm now going to purchase credits, but it doesn't even load the credits. Okay, so actually that was done for nothing. No, because I think we need to adjust this whole thing. Let's just revamp, let's just implement the plan where it loads this and it proxies it, of course, securely through an edge function on the server, because we're not going to put the secret key on the front end. And I'm glad that Lovable made us aware that this is not something that we should do. That is good. Very rest assuring. So now it's thinking about all of that, and it's going to implement the plan. So we'll be back when the plan was implemented. Oh, actually, yeah, I think we'll be back when it was implemented, because I think it'll take a little bit. So now RevenueCat claims that it fixed it. So let's try updating this. And we'll see. Let's also try it on the web version, because I think we should be logged in under the same user record. And then we can also see if the Stripe stuff is somehow working, which I don't think it will be working, but we'll see. It may have integrated the JavaScript SDK though. If we go to buy coins, yeah, it's not loading this, but I still have 0 coins on the web, but I think that is fine. Also, this API takes a little bit. But the fact that it takes a little bit is probably a good sign. Okay, so let's see if I can share my screen again with you so we can take a look at this together. Let's take a look at that. Should be coming through now. And let's see. Perfect. Let's go on opening the application. And now, please, it can take a little bit. So let's... Thank God. Oh. This is, this is great. This is great. I'm really in a good mood. So let's buy some more credits here. Purchase initiated. Ooh, look at that. Okay. And you see how it updated in the background? So we're using the functions, we're doing the polling, we're doing the WebSockets, and it's updated. We got RevenueCat working. This is great. Now let's spend 10 credits. Function return. So we can't spend, we can buy, we can't spend. So you got a business where people create a balance, but they can't get rid of the balance. Sounds like a business not lasting long. So buying works. Now spending needs to work better. So let's go into Lovable. It says, works, you are amazing. Very important. You got to write amazing in capital letters. But spending does not work. Please fix that and take a look at the latest logs on the backend.
Let's go to the chat and let's take a look at that. So now most of our grand scheme with the credits and the subscriptions is working. Heck, it's even working on Android. Look at that. I got my Android device here. And I'll show you a little bit more about that. But, the beautiful thing is with Despia, it's a hybrid framework. So whatever we did on an iPhone here, like the same thing will work on an Android. Like you can build your application iOS first. You may only have an iPhone. And, all the functionality that you're adding on iOS will also work on Android out of the box. So that's the cool thing about Despia. But now we still need to have the ability so our users can spend tokens so we can, make our money, because we're not making money if they're buying tokens technically, because we still have to keep the money and pay for the usage and all that kind of stuff. So there you go. But let's take a look at that here. And the cool thing is, like, if you just want the comparison, I think it's quite neat. Like, look at this. You got the comparison Android, and then you got the same thing on iOS, and we have one code base for both of that, including the web. I think that's pretty neat. So let's close both of those here, and let's get right started. So if we go to the documentation here, you see this is the code to deposit and spending. So I'm just going to reference this, and that is a secret key for something I shouldn't probably have shared, but the copy doesn't seem to work. Let's just then manually copy that. So I'm going to copy this deposit and spending part into Lovable for the API to spend that. And then I'm also going to then go and provide this example response here. Their copy doesn't work on RevenueCat today. So let's do boom, let's copy that. And then error. And then I'm going to show it also the error response when couldn't do it. So let's take a look at that. And I'm going to add this to the chat so it has the context in how to actually call those, because I assume there is possibly a chance that it doesn't know how to correctly call them because it's such a new thing. It's just in beta, right? And there's always a little bit of hallucination and knowledge cutoff when it comes to building applications with AI and Lovable. But, if you know how to do that, and if you know how to research those things, that's why I do this video. And also show you unedited everything of me going through the process, because I think you should understand the process that is for the thing that makes you money and that your business relies on. So we want to do in-depth, and I want to show you all the hurdles I go through, because it's an important topic, and then we have more polished videos moving forward, like click and done. But, I don't want it to be a click and done for in-app purchases, because it's making money for your business. You should know the ins and outs of this, and you should take a couple of hours to understand a little bit more about it. But now Lovable is saying, looking at the RevenueCat API documentation you've shared, I can see the issue now that the current token coin spend function is using the wrong API and wrong HTTP method. So now we have this plan, so let's implement the new plan. So now it's going to implement the new plan, and this can take a little bit. And, what I can do is I can now go into, RevenueCat. And what we can do is we can go into our products, and we could now, if this would be your live application, add more products. We could go into the weekly one. We could make sure to set up the grace period. This is something that can cause you some trouble, is the grace period for the web purchases. Also, I'm curious, do the web purchases work? So while it's doing that, I want to try this. So let's go to the web purchase, because we have it working on iOS and Android. Let's see if the latest version is also working for the web purchases. So it's loading the condoms. I think we can do that faster. So I want to see if we can bring the loading time down, because it takes quite a bit to load them, which is not optimal. So I want to see if we can speed that up. And it doesn't seem to load the credits on the web version. So we need to make sure that that is going okay. Let's take a look at the network tab here. Let's see. It doesn't, now we logged in. We should be logged in, right? There you go. Interesting.
doesn't seem to load them. So we'll look into that. But there you go. Now I just wasted some time, so now we can take a look at the updated coin spent function. So let's update this.
And I'm going to get my iPhone ready here while this is updating it.
Let me just start sharing my screen so we can look at this whole thing together. Let's close it. Let me close the application as well. So we're going to have a fresh start for this. Let's, share the screen here and let's take a look at that together. So now we take a look at this. It's going to load my screen sharing and we can open the application and hopefully we'll be able to spend some credits. Also, FYI, I just purchased some credits. So it's not 75. Oh, I didn't mean to open Lovable. Even though in-app handling is handled with in-app tabs, is how you should do that if you don't want to get rejected by the store. But we have it updated, and it still seems to be loading it. Maybe there is some issue that it takes a little bit too long to load, and the API request is timing out. That could be, and it could also be the alert actually that we're doing because we're on the non-licensed version here of Despia with the test one. Let's say the initial, I think it solved the problem with the spending. It's just the loading one. The initial credit load takes very, very long, and I think sometimes it times out because I'm stuck at loading. Make it fast because I'm stuck at loading Make it fast. Also add retry logic if needed. Also add retry logic if needed. And I'm going to take this documentation here that RevenueCat has for their products, for their virtual currencies, and I'm just going to copy the whole page so it knows all the best practices for this whole thing. Let's paste this inside of here. Let's go into the chat and let's see what the chat has to say about that. So let's send that to the chat and let's see what AI does think about this particular thing that we are building here. Scroll all the way down. I can see the issue. The initial credit load is calling check entitlement on mount, which fetches the RevenueCat API, and this can be slow or timeout. Let me look at the current implementation. Loxy understand. The problem with coin versus coins, check entitlement online searching for coin, but based on RevenueCat documentations and your spending present, it should be coins, lowercase. Sequential API calls are slow. The function makes two separate API calls to RevenueCat, version 1 for entitlements, version 2 for coins, which doubles latency. No timeout handling. If RevenueCat is slow, the function will just hang until it times out. No retry logic. If the initial load fails, users are stuck. Database fallback not optimal. The database fallback use subscription only happens if live call throws an error, but not if times out or returns slowly. Optimize virtual currency loading. Okay, so I want to say whenever we load from RC, save the value in user record as cache for fast loading, and then call RC on load and update again. So we always have up to date info plus fast loads plus also call RC on IAP success like we are doing. Like this is the function that, remember, we call when the purchase was successful inside of the application. Okay, now let's send this. And I will take a look at this together. So whenever we load from RevenueCat, save the value in user record as cache for fast loading. And now it's going to implement this very smart plan for managing the resources, making sure we have fast times, and it is a great user experience. So let's take a look at that. Let's hope it doesn't break too much, but let's see. We should then also be able to spend the coins. So let's see.
Now, there is a chance that when we cache, that it still doesn't get the coins right. So when we spend
coins, make sure to not trust our database, but try calling RC, and if it's 0, do not run logic to do what would cost coins, plus take the RC data and update database plus UI. So we have like this real synchronization happening, so everything works nicely together in harmony and is orchestrated nicely together while being very efficient. So now it's going to implement that, and we're going to take a look at the whole setup for this. Critical, perfect. The current flow has I can see the issue. The current flow has a critical security vulnerability and use coins. Front-end checks not secure because the database should be stable. It should be stale. A malicious user could modify the front-end code to bypass this check. Yes, they could. Raise conditions could occur if coins are spent elsewhere.
The backend, yes. So it will create a plan.
Create a plan. And maybe not scrolling while it's streaming.
I think I gotta do another cut. My computer is getting hot again. Gotta have it cool.
Put some ice on it.
The plan is now done, so let's implement that. So let's implement the plan inside of Lovable, and then we're going to share our device here, and we're going to take a look if this works. So let me pull that up so we can already monitor the changes, because I think this is going to be quite of a simple change. And yeah, as you can see, the eye is already starting to refresh. So we should be done with this any second. So I want to get my phone ready for this. So, boo, oh, buggy, but I think it should be good. I think it's because it's over Wi-Fi with the sharing, but let's see. So now it's going to update that. And then the last step, once it's all nicely integrated, what we're going to do is we're just going to make sure that we're using a nice iOS style drawer for the paywall. And then that's about it. And I'm going to call it a day. But yeah, this was a very interesting video. I think we started on like at 2 p.m. We're now at 8. I mean, I did do some breaks in between to decompress, but very interesting implementation today. And I'm glad I did it because I learned a lot from it, and I'm now able to help every Despia user in the customer chat even better when they have any questions about RevenueCat or if they should use the offers. And I would tell them no, because I don't fully understand it yet. So how about you just, wait till we have the paywall if you want to use the offers, the offerings. But let's see, done, implemented. Cache first loading with instant UI from database, parallel RevenueCat calls with timeout retry, and secure coin spending that verifies balance. This sounds like a dream come true. So let's update this and let's see if this works. And then we're also loading the entitlements from the RevenueCat API, meaning we're going to be able to then see, hey, they're on the pro plan. So let's unlock those pages for them, right? So there you go. We now have this all set up. So let me share my screen here. And let's take a look at that. Now we got the application here. So it's still loading the credits, and it seems like it's not loading them at all. So let's see. When I go to store, I see no credits. It only says loading. Check Backend. And then also to get this correctly, let's try logging in here. And let's try doing sign up here. Let's do name Despia. So we can also have Lovable access the console because it also oh, actually now it loaded on my end, but it took a long time to load them initially. I don't know why now it's fast. Okay, it's like a very long initial load. So let's say it still has a very long initial load. Also, now I see 0 credits because now we're back at 0 credits for the account that used to have 25. So let's go to the chat. You see it's like taking a little bit to load, but now we also got to make sure that we have the web purchases. Oh, actually, it seems that we can do web purchases. No, this feature requires the mobile app. So we can also then set up RevenueCat's web purchases with their link API, but we'll take a look at that. So we have a full hybrid solution that works on a PWA, on Android, on iOS, essentially everything, the whole ecosystem, and it all goes through RevenueCat. But the problem, missing 25 credits, the init returning items, which means RevenueCat doesn't have any virtual currency balance for this user. 25 cards you made were likely only stored in local database, not in RevenueCat. Very long initial load. No, the user has 25 coins on RC. I can see it on the dashboard. So let's go back to RevenueCat. Let's check. Maybe the spending worked. We don't know. Let's see. We have this user here with the same ID, and they have 25 coins, right? So their current balance is coin 75, actually. They have 75. So this user here, no, the user has 75 coins on RC. Now, this is an experimental API, and it is slow, and it has rate limits, and I think it's, seems to be a little bit painful implementing because of the rate limit. So we have to, already, think about setting it up so, we're efficient when it comes to calling and, making that all sort out. But look at this. Perfect. I found the bug. Currency code, coin, all uppercase. Looking at the logs, RevenueCat is returning. And we need to look at for lowercase equals coins. Okay, so it was a simple thing. We were looking for lowercase, but it returns as uppercase. I would say this and comma issues are 99% of all programming troubles in the world. And thank God we have AI to tell us that this is what's happening, because it would have taken me a couple of hours figuring that out. So now we're going to have Lovable take a look at that. How much credits did I spend for this video? Not that bad, not that bad. I mean, I am on the high plan, so I think I can do a couple more videos this month. So let's see. I'll implement all the fixes, currency code matching, and loading optimizations. Okay, there you go. Also, I've been sitting here for now over 3 hours making this video. So if you haven't liked this video yet, I think you owe me a like. So do it right now while we're waiting here. Just give it a like. Okay. So now it's still looking into that. It's now fixing it. It's editing the files, all the formulas that we're doing here. Very nice. And then this will take a little bit. In the meantime, it's very cool. Let's
explore RevenueCat. You can see I'm in the United States. I spent $11, so you can get the, the lifetime value of the customer. We can see the SDK version, the locale, the build version. We're on iOS 26. And there you go. So we have the coins, we have the anonymous user ID, and then we have our Supabase ID linked with this as well. We got the last purchase here. Now we can transfer this. We can also grant them an entitlement like premium access. Let's say you have influencers using your app and they are like, hey, if you, if you give me free access, I'm going to promote your product. You can say, there you go, perfect. Let's give you access for a week so you can make our UGC content or something like this. So it's very nice. Lets you set that all kinds of stuff up. If you now base the access on the entitlements that you're loading from the RevenueCat API, very pleasant user experience. So there you go. And now it does coin versus coins. So let's update this and let's hope that this works. And also, if we can make it work faster, that'd also be very nice. But if we're getting the correct ones, I'll still be happy because that's still something that we need to make sure that is set up correctly, that we're actually, getting the data and getting that all set up. So, oh, now it's actually fast, but it still gives me incorrect coins. Oh, that's interesting. This is interesting behavior. Let's look at this. But it could be an issue on the database, actually. So if you take a look at the application here, right, you will see that, oops, when I go to the store here, it's now actually loading the correct ones. And it's quite fast. And as you can see, I got 75 coins now. So this is working well. And when I close the application, and I open the application again, just like this, and I go to the store, now, as you can see, very fast in loading that 75 coins. I can buy more coins. It's showing the coins. It's just, I don't know, the screen mirroring is a little bit off because it's over Wi-Fi. And now I can buy more coins. And now I can do the purchase here. And you will see in real time, you see like this number in the background? Like it'll automatically update in the background. Now you see it's now 100 coins. So it automatically updates and updates the UI. And when you refresh, right, and you close the application, and then if you were to open the application again, you will see that we're loading, and we should be loading the coins. And now we got 100 coins loaded in the application. So now this is working. The beautiful thing is, because our RevenueCat integration is hybrid, so if it works on iOS, it's very likely to also work on Android. Now, you still should always double check. The problem is when you do this with Android testing, you have to spend actual money. So I'm not going to do it in this video, but I can tell you I trust it. I'm not going to show you my credit card number in this video. I would, though, assume some people would want that. But I can tell you I tried it with my credit card. It works on my Android. I'm not going to show my credit card, though, with people on here, but it does work. Make sure to verify it on Android as well. iOS lets you test that without showing your credit card number because they have Face ID, where with Android, you need to put your credit card number in there to do the test purchase. And then sometimes they charge, sometimes they don't. So I don't know if I even got charged for this. So it's a little bit more of a hassle testing that in Android. You probably got to spend a couple of dollars to test your own application. Worst case. And on iOS, it's way nicer, but because Despia is hybrid, if it works on iOS and your setup is correct on Android, it'll also work on Android. So that's the nice part about it. So as you can see, we got this whole thing set up. So now what happens when I spend 10 coins? And now it still gives me the error that I can't spend the coins. So everything works. So now we just need to make sure that we can spend the coins. So let's say everything is amazing and it works now for buying coins and updating and loading them, but I still cannot spend them. Okay, let's take a look at that. Now, we are handling them with RevenueCat with an API that is in beta. So
it's not going to have the latest knowledge. There's some knowledge cutoff, but let's see if we can walk together through this to make sure to get it working. So let me investigate where we can spend coins. I'll check the edge function logs and the spending. Perfect. I found the issue, virtual currency with code coins not found, because it's coin, it's not coins, right? The problem, it needs coins minus 10, but it needs to be coin. Yeah, it should be coin. There you go, uppercase. So this is exactly the problem that we had before. So let's implement the plan. This will now fix it. It's just changing one word, so this should be quite fast. And then we're ready, and I can finally go to bed. So we're almost done, because it's now like it's starting to get late here with this video, but I want to get this finished so you can get revenue in your application with RevenueCat. So let's wait, and we're going to get them probably edited. There you go. Yeah, we just had to update one file. If we look at the code changes, it literally just changed coins to coin. So that's probably one of the easiest. We could have probably done it ourselves, but let's update this. And now we can hopefully spend coins, so we can get coins and spend coins. And then that should be hopefully everything to get this to work. So we'll double check on that. Now this is updated. So I'm going to go back to the application. Let's close it. That's the nice thing about Despia over-the-air updates. You close the application, open it again, and the application is updated. Very nice experience. And let's open the store. So now, there you go. We got the coins loaded. Let's spend 10 coins. Oh, now it's at 90. It was successful. I just spent 10 coins. Let's reload this. Yes. Let's close the application. Let's see if it still stays at 90. And let's open that here. There you go. Beautiful. Beautiful. There you go. So now, as you can see, we are buying the coins and spending the coins. That works. I can now buy more coins, because who doesn't want more coins, right? And now, if I buy more individual coins, I can get another 25 coins into my application, just like that, right? And that was now successful, so we should get the confirmation. There you go. No active entitlements, but there you go. We can close that, and now we got more coins. There you go. So as you can see, we got more coins into here. And now if we close this, and we open the application again, we should be able to take a look at the new coins, which should, again, be now the new balance. There you go. And we can, spend some coins now. And it should now be 105. And it updated that, and it's now synced. There you go. Now, let's try buying a subscription. So if in the weekly subscription, I'm now going to do the weekly subscription. This will now trigger the webhook for the weekly purchase. So we will see if the coins that are being granted with the weekly purchase work. And now, as you can see, this is amazing. I just got my weekly coins added to my account that I can use in the application. Plus, you will see it's now loading the entitlement. We get the expiry date, we get the product identifier that was purchased, and we're getting the grace period. It's not available, so we don't have any grace towards them. And we have also the purchase date. So we're getting the entitlement loaded into our application. So you can then say, hey, if there's a pro entitlement, then you can unlock certain pages that will be gated to other users. And because that comes from the backend, it's secure. And then you can also run this entitlement check on the backend to then only allow certain API calls and loading of certain data if the entitlement is active for the user ID, that is attached to the RevenueCat session to make this 100% secure. It could come directly through the auth session. So there's so much that you can do with this, but this is the whole system to implement that. Now, the only thing that we would need to do for the web billing is I would go into the chat and say, for the web, please also implement RC's web pay links. Okay, and then for the pay links, what we would do is we would go to products, And we would go instead of products here, and then I would have my weekly product here. And for the web paywalls here, we're going to go and we're going to have inside of here our paywall that we can set up with our purchase links. So let's see what RevenueCat what it wants from us. So it generates the payment link, clicks buy. So we just need the product ID, task flow kind small, sample body, purchase ID, use paywall hook. I think we may be even able to do this on the front end. So if the platform equals web, then secure checkout via Stripe, in-app purchase. Let's see, in-app purchase, renewing purchase. Yes, let's see, this looks good. So user authentication. Let's implement the plan here for the web purchases. And it would load the web purchases obviously from the web database. But yeah, we can also do that. So now it set it up with the Stripe checkout when mobile devices continue using the IAP. So let's see if that works on the web application, right? So people can still also do the checkout in the browser if they want. I assume it did set it up incorrectly, but we'll see. I hope it's using the RevenueCat implementation. Now it does say RevenueCat web pay links, so I'm optimistic about that, but we'll see. Now, let's see. Let's go on the store. It's loading. Let's buy coins. And let's buy this for the week. Opening checkout. And now I'm getting this error if I'm trying to open the checkout. So let's go to the chat. Let's say I just tried checking out on the web and it loaded, but I got an error. And now I'm going to send that to it, and we will take a look at what Lovable has to say about that. So let's wait patiently here. Okay, I can see from the Edge function that there is a 404 error when trying to generate the pay links. Let me investigate. I can see the RevenueCat API is returning 404, response not found. Product ID being used, user ID, message not found, type, resource missing. 404 from RevenueCat typically means one of those issues. The product ID doesn't exist in RevenueCat's web billing configuration, might not be set for web billing in your RevenueCat project. Web billing need to be specifically configured. RevenueCat project ID is incorrect. No, that should be correct. Customer doesn't exist yet in RevenueCat. Web billing not enabled. What to check. So let's build a simpler implementation here because I don't want to spend too much time on web billing. I don't think most people would use RevenueCat web billing because you can just use like Polar for that as well. But and then you get like merchant of record that doesn't take 30 days to pay you because they integrate with Paddle. But if they would integrate with Polar, that would be way better. But what I can do is we have those web purchase links. I'm just going to go on edit. You could edit this web purchase link, but we have this web purchase link created before. And I can just go and I can just edit it. And it still has the offering. So we actually need the offering for this one, as it seems. But you could also probably just create... No, you need to have an offering for the web purchase link. Gotcha. So let's go back into offerings. We have this offering in here that just shows the weekly subscription. Okay. And then let's edit this offering. Let's also add the one-time part to it. So this is probably where the offering actually comes in handy. So now for this offering, I'm going to select the type. I do custom coins. There you go. This one will be coins, and no product for web billing. So it won't actually show. But now since we have the offering, we can go to web billing here, which is a feature of RevenueCat. We can create a new purchase link, internal name, web offering. We would select an offering. It doesn't seem like our offering is available. I don't know. The offerings, they don't like me today. Not the product catalog, the offerings. It seems to be correctly set up. Let's try creating a new offering. Let's call this demo. I'm just going to add a package here for weekly, and I'm just going to add the weekly one now, just for test purposes. Weekly, let's save that description. Weekly, let's save. There you go. Now I have a new offering, so we can, no, not add paywall, sorry. We're going to add purchase link, and now I'm going to select my demo offering. Header, hello, 123, subheader, hello, 123, https://example.com, success, show success message. Thanks for your money. Okay, allow them to make another purchase, show a success page. Okay, and now internal name, web demo. Okay, now we can save this billing link here, right? And then we just go to web demo, and I'm going to simplify it. So let's go on edit here on edit on copy link template. And then I'm going to do user ID. I'm going to copy the production URL. Now I go to RevenueCat. I say when user clicks on buy coins button on web, just open this link with the user ID. No pop-up for web purchase. Just redirect. That would be the simplest way to set this up. So we have the functionality. So now when I click on here on the web, it'll just go to the redirect link with the user ID pre-filled. So then when the purchase is successful, we can then, we can then just automatically have it be set up with the user ID and make sure that that went through successfully. So now we have this sent to chat, so we can implement a plan for this. And then this should be actually quite simple. So then we just do a redirect with window.location.href. And now then we're going to just implement the plan. I'm just going to remove stripe tags so we can test this in test mode. And we may not actually be able to do that because we're not in test mode, but you get the idea. It should work because it's the same RevenueCat events. That's why you may want to consider using RevenueCat also for the web ones. The only downside would be if you want your taxes to be managed, you need to use Paddle. They take 30 days to pay you. If you want to get your money quick, you got to do all the taxes yourself. Where with Polar, you get the sweet spot of both of them. And you get fast payouts and they manage your taxes. So that's something to consider. But with RevenueCat, the whole idea is you have one webhook for all platforms, right? Like your events for in-app purchases for Android, for iOS, for web will all go through one platform. So it's nicer and easier to set up and also less confusion for the AI when you're setting that up because you only have to do this whole setup once for one platform and not for every little different platform here. So let's try updating this. I think this is going to be the end of the video. If we are going to go all into the rabbit hole of web payments in your application so you can charge on the web, I'm probably going to make a different video about that. But for this, it's technically a mobile application video. So I think we're already above and beyond what this whole video topic was about. But isn't that every video we make here? So let's take a look. Buy coins. And now as we can see, we're going to the RevenueCat web checkout. We can continue. If I would have Stripe tags enabled, I would not get the error message. But there you go. Now we got the web checkout. The user ID is pre-filled, so we know who purchased. I'm going to call this win because we also have now the full functionality in our application. As you can see in the mobile application, let me switch back, where we have the full management system here for, the credits and all that kind of stuff. So if I share my screen here, as you can see, you will now be able to see the credits, the coins, and I can go on buy coins here, and I can buy some additional coins, and that should be it. Got this drawer coming up, And there you go. Now this is from a functionality perspective. If you want this to be a beautiful paywall, I think I'm going to make a separate video how to make beautiful paywalls in Lovable. But if I close this pop-up here, you will see that the credit number increased. And you also get the entitlement, so now you can grant an access based on a plan, but also read the credits. So in the next video, we're going to, first of all, probably set up safe area for the series here, from building mobile applications in Lovable with real native functionalities like this one today. And I can also spend credits. Like, spending money is also more exciting than this because that's how we make money. So you see it just spent, and it synced the entitlements, and it updated the data in the backend. So this is all nice. So we now got this whole safe, secure credit system working. Thanks to RevenueCat, we have all the data in the overview here. We got this beautiful portal that we can see exactly how much money we're making here. We also see on the mobile app, and we get like a push notification every time we make money and get a sign up. You can see everything happening in here, new sub, old one, all that kind of stuff. And you can take a look, see the whole user journey. You can see you deducted 10 coins. So if a user says, hey, you charged me too much, you got the whole logs for everything. When was something deducted? When was something granted? When was something purchased? Really makes the whole thing, streamlines it a lot. So very nice, very cool system. And that's how you integrate the whole RevenueCat system in your application, but then also enable in-app purchases through it, manage entitlements, spend their credits, spend their tokens, but then also if you don't have tokens, you can still use the entitlements to then give users access to premium functionalities and all that kind of stuff. So that's how you do in-app purchases for your mobile application, and it also works for Android. So if I'm going to go to my Android device here, you see I can also buy the coins on Android on my Android device. Same setup, not going to put my credit card number in there though. But yeah. There you go. It will work because it's a hybrid framework. So if you build and get it working in iOS, or if you build and get it working in Android, it'll work vice versa. That's the nice thing about Despia together with Lovable. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for being with me in, I think, almost 4 hours in this video. And thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions, please let me know. My email is in the video down below. Take care.